Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We got started a little bit late here today, and I will be able to talk to everyone today as we are actually working through a couple technical difficulties with the guest audio. And let me go ahead and see who has come in first here tonight. It looks like we have courtesy of Race Fan. We have Race Fan with the gold. We have Kitty Cattywack with the silver. And then we have Flat 6 with the bronze here tonight. So that's awesome. Glad you guys were in here early. We really do appreciate your support here tonight. Let's see. Also, who else is here? We have Mel WD40 getting us lubed up and ready for the show. We also have Roger Murray dropping some knowledge on August 16, 1977. Wow signal, SETI aliens. Contact? ? Yeah, appreciate you keeping us informed. Roger Murray, as always. Robert Lamar Jr. is out there. Appreciate you showing on up here. The Jaquetta, I see you as well. Let's see. We have, Jaquetta, Eternity, Eternal. Let's see. Gory Tiger. Hey, Gory Tiger. See you out there. And we will be able to get to everybody. We'll have to start the show, though, here real quick. I'll start the podcast and the radio side at the same time here as we get ready to go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, guys, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with SR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and oh, so much more. We are going to have a fantastic show here tonight. We have MUFON investigator, author, UFO experiencer, paranormal experiencer, Rob Schelsky, who will be joining us momentarily as we talk UFOs and aliens. The truth is stranger than fiction, as he is an author, has multiple books. I'm talking about close to 80 books, if not more than that he has penned, 4,000 words a day average. Yeah. Awesome stuff. So we'll be getting to him shortly here. So now let's go ahead and welcome everybody else in here as we get the guests together here. We have David Barnes. David Barnes is out there. Hello, everyone. Hey, everyone. My first live show. I love this intro. And we appreciate you coming on in here, David Barnes. Thanks for coming on in. And because this is your first live show, I wish I had some sort of music I could play for you, but I'll tell you what's going on here. So you have come in, just so happens, on a Saturday, which is the After Hours radio show. We run this show on Saturdays and Sundays from 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Pacific. We had earlier today Dirty Filth, who does cryptid cartoons. His show runs at 2 p.m. Pacific. We have Dave Scott, who is here Monday through Friday, running the Woo Train, 9 p.m. until midnight Pacific. We have as well two other shows. We have UFO Max Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific, and then Element 115 with Lee and Tim James on Friday. So essentially, we have 7 days a week. You'll find something right here going on live on Spaced Out Radio. So we appreciate you seeing you back. That'd be awesome. As we go ahead and look and see who else has come on in, April R. Coleman, greetings. Hey, April, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing on up here to the show here tonight. The Jaquetta stating swag doesn't make me look good. It is I that makes swag look good. Okay, let's change let's change the script then. I like that. Jaquetta does not have ugly swag. Actually, Jaquetta makes the swag even better. There we go. Okay, who else is out there? We have Terrence Wills, Rob G, and the place to be with emojis, fire emojis, 100. Appreciate you, Terrence Wills. Thanks for coming on in here tonight. We got Ann Joanne, appreciate you showing on up here. Who else do we have? Since we have the time here this evening, we have Jennifer out there with the horns emoji. Hey, Jennifer, thanks for coming on in. We have... Let's see, who else do we have? Who else has snuck on in the door? Magneticus Attractus. Appreciate you coming on in. Ethanol as well. Jules, no ugly swag people. Spacedoutradio.com. Thanks for coming in, Jules. Matt Carter as well. Hey, Matt Carter, wavy hand emoji. Appreciate you showing up. Kurt M as well. Saying hi all. Appreciate you coming in this evening. Let's see. Who else do we have? We got Jeff Garvey out there. Jeff Garvey, thanks for showing on up here. Contrary One saying, yo, Rob, with the thumbs up emoji. And matter of fact, can we do that early tonight? Let's go ahead and just take a moment since we are working out the guest issues. And please take a moment, if you have it in your heart, to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button here tonight for the show. Let's try to hit 100 early. That would be awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome sauce. Let's see who else has come on in. Paranormal Short Sessions by Keith Evans. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming on in, Paranormal Short Sessions. We appreciate showing up to the show here tonight. Dookie Pickles coming in from X. Appreciate you showing on up and taking your time while flipping through all the X drama and taking time to watch the show here tonight. We appreciate you all the time, every time. And who else do we have? Let's see. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It looks like we are all current. We are all caught up. So yes, we are having some technical difficulties here. So what we'll do is go ahead and talk about some stuff here while we wait for the guest. And Woody, where should we start this conversation off? someone throw a topic out there. Let's throw something out there real quick and get this conversation going. I would I would love to engage with the audience here tonight. Three-eye Atlas. Three-eye Atlas. An alien invasion or just simply a comet passing by the neighborhood? What do you guys think out there? Three-eye Atlas. Huge 12-mile long alien spaceship, which let me remind you, if it does happen to be that, and once again, I have to look at I have to look into this again, because I swear, and tell me if I'm wrong, Avi Loeb, I think, and I don't want to put words in his mouth because I just read this. I can't say if it's 100% true. Went from 0.2% likelihood that this is an alien object to 40%. That's a pretty big jump. That's why I'm kind of skeptical about that, but I read it and that's what it said. So 40% is kind of, that's like 50-50 almost, right? So imagine, what would a 12-mile long alien craft potentially be holding inside? That's the question. If this is an alien craft, if it, whatever chances there are that it is, if it happens to be exactly that, and if it is rendezvousing with Earth, maybe it's alien craft and it's just passing through and nothing to worry about, right? We just keep quiet, turn off all our electronics and hope that it just passes by, right? While we get some awesome footage. But what if it does park right outside of Earth? What does that mean? A 12-mile long alien craft, 20 kilometers for those in Canada. What potentially would that mean, right? And then who's on board, right? Is it the Greys? Is it the reptilians? Is it the Nordic? Like, who's on board this alien craft if it is determined to be an actual alien craft? Who's on board? What species? Is it a 12-mile long craft full of insectoids? That would be a bad day. That would be a bad day. That would be a bad day. Jennifer says it's just a rock passing by. And if it is that, you know what, it's going to be just as awesome, because I think that, something that big, we're talking 12 miles, a rock 12 miles long. Let's just look at it as if it's just prosaic, right? Mundane. It's just a space rock. Even with that being said, that's a 12-mile long rock, right? I don't even know how big the one was that took out the dinosaurs, but yeah, a 12-mile long rock just kind of passing through the neighborhood is pretty scary, right? Because what if the trajectory was a little different? Then it could be a bad day for humanity. Either way, right? So I guess it's exciting to be able to see it. It's not something we have to wait years down the line to kind of for it to rendezvous. It's going to happen this fall. All eyes will be on the sky. Hopefully, they do send out the Juno probe, the one that's currently orbiting Jupiter, so we can kind of get a close look at what this thing is. We missed the chance on Oumuamua. And if you ask Avi Loeb, he swears that was an alien craft. So I don't know. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? Yeah, the jaquetta I think is fascinating, but if it hits like the time of the dinosaurs, I'm gonna stand out and watch. You might as well. What else are you gonna do, right? If it were, I guess in either case, right? In either case, what can you really do? As we talked to Christian McLeod last night, he kind of said he'd just go up on the highest mountain peak, kind of kick back in the chair and just watch the show. What more? I guess what more can you do, right? You know, yeah. We're going to be talking about that, and so when we talk too much about that, so when we get the guest to correct the situation here. Terrence Wills, let me see what you got here. The Jaquetta insectoids. I'm going to have to stack up on my wasp spray. I don't know if that even works on insectoids. That would be I don't know, right? Maybe it would. Terrence Wills, when humans accept aliens into society, when will they show up? This has been something that I talked about, and I just don't see in our current state, right? No, I don't think so, right? That's why it kind of goes against the love and light sort of, part of this, because I don't know if there's, besides individual experiences, and you can't discount those, but you do have people that have been abducted who say they felt nothing but this good energy, or they were given a great message about you know them being here to help us. And I've looked at it in an abstract way where it's like, okay, maybe it's a little different than that. Maybe they're here as essentially guards to make sure that we don't get too far off this planet, right? Because that makes more sense, especially when we talk about would aliens accept humans into society. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes that we would have to make as human beings, I would think, but I don't know how they think, right? They could be in this, in a mind state, a malevolent mind state, and they accept that sort of behavior. So who really knows at the end of the day until we get to sit down and have that conversation. Also, can actual disclosure bring us together and avoid nuclear destruction? I would hope so. I would hope so. Here's the thing with that, though. The thing with that is, as far as disclosure or nuclear destruction goes, they've shown that they could turn these things on and off. I would assume that they would also be able to neutralize these. And I'm just like, okay, would they, why not take that extra step, right? If they're coming around these nuclear facilities to make sure that we don't use them or we get rid of them, they can, from, remotely tap in and turn these things on and off. Then you would assume that they could kind of, make these things void or irrelevant or, you know, ineffective, you would think, right? So I don't know. I don't know. And let me see. Excuse me. Paul Atkins thinks that rock coming through is definitely a ship. We will see, and I'm going to ask the guest here because I'm going to bring the guest here. I think the guest might have everything all together. I'm going to bring the guest in here and just check the rest of your notes here. It's a ship. It's space trucking. It could be that traveling through cargo ship, right? It's 12 miles long. Why not? Let's see. Yeah, Jules. We've already seen Craft with Beans on it, so what's the big deal? Seriously, don't panic. Shelly Montgomery, new member. Appreciate you becoming a member here tonight. We do appreciate your support. All right. Also, let me see if there's anything else before we. Okay, Amy saying it's not all good, Rob. When I was abducted, I thought I was in hell because I saw them taking babies out of girls like me. Then I remembered I was a virgin and we all were, so I couldn't be in hell. Yeah, that's deep. We're going to talk about that and more. We're going to go ahead and bring our guest in and see if we are totally good on the audio, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob Schelsky, an avid and eclectic writer, averages about, as I said earlier, 4,000 words a day. Degree in science, has written a large number of factual articles for the former Alien Skin magazine, as well as other magazines. Let's go ahead and bring our guest in for the night and keep the fingers crossed here. The audio is great. Rob Schelsky.
Can you hear me? I hope.
Yes, I can definitely hear you. You're sounding.
Good.
And, we were kind of talking here with the audience for a moment about Three Eye Atlas, and I definitely want to talk to you about that here tonight. But as first time here, I would love to know, because you're an author as well of at least about 80 books, which is insane. So in the science fiction category, what kind of led you into becoming an author had you intersected with the phenomena at any point in your early life? If you wouldn't mind starting from there.
Well, actually, I had no desire to be an author much until my brother experienced missing time when he was 16. I didn't know about it till he was in his 30s. He didn't tell me. He didn't tell anyone. But he and a friend went to the desert, camped out overnight. At midnight, they saw a bright red light streaking across the sky, thought it was a meteorite, thought they'd go hunt for it in the dark of the night around midnight in the desert. Crazy. But they did. And that's the last thing they remembered. Next morning, they got up, they struck camp. His friend's father came and picked him up, and they left. And years passed, decades. And my brother moved to Vegas, and all of a sudden he remembered taking a shower. He was scrubbing himself, and a piece of gray material came out of his elbow, and it was solid like plastic, but not plastic. And that's when his memory came back that they had been chasing a meteorite, but he didn't remember anything about being abducted. And he never claims abduction; he claims missing time. And I believe him. He was my brother. So that's what got me started in it. And well, I've always been kind of interested in UFOs since I was a little kid, but that's what got me started really researching it. And the more I researched the stuff, the more I wanted to write about it and share what I'd learned, or at least pose questions that other people might be able to answer for me. I don't know. So that's what I did anyway. But and here I am, 80 books later, and I've written on every topic you can think of practically when it comes to the paranormal. So
Yes, and I definitely want to make sure we get into that as well. And I would, one thing that I used to do on my show, on my personal channel, is I had this segment where I called it science fiction to science fact, and it was just based on things that we had at one point looked at as science fiction, and now that we've gone through these revelations that these things are real, now it's become science fact. And so when you look back at what you previously thought was science fiction through this new lens, it kind of blows your mind. So for you, like, do you feel like science fiction kind of manifests reality, or control, like has some control over reality? Or do you think science fiction is simply writing about something you've created in your mind?
um, I think science fiction is, well, a good example would be the old Star Trek series that became movies and everything else. I was just a kid when that came out. I watched it. I loved it. My whole generation did. I'm a boomer, obviously. And the next thing you know, we started trying to build the stuff we saw on Star Trek. Communicators became cell phones. All that sort of thing came out of it. It was a really positive experience, and you could just see it happening. We wanted it so bad, we Trekkies, that we went ahead and tried to recreate it ourselves. So I think first you have to have the thought, the imagination. Then you have to have the urge to try to make something of it. And that's when you move from science fiction to science fact. All of us writers, and I am a sci-fi writer as well as a paranormal writer, I I like trying to foretell the future, but in ways that might be warnings to people as well as entertain, dystopians, that sort of thing, you know. But yeah, it's been an ongoing evolution. And I became a MUFON field investigator, and I have traveled a lot of the world in UFOs hunts. I was in England for the superstorm that they had there of UFOs over the English Channel. I've been in Pine Bush, New York, where they had a lot of sightings. I've been in Gulf Breeze, Florida, and interviewed people there that had sightings. And basically, that's just how I got around to doing all of this. Sort of hit or miss, but I ended up here.
So while we're kind of there, what do you feel like? And as far as being a MUFON investigator, talking to so many different people, taking information on so many different types of cases, what is your feeling about the alien presence? Like, from the people you've talked to, do you feel like they're here for love and light to help, like a lot of people seem to say for some reason? Or do you feel like maybe there's a little bit of both going on? Or how do you feel about this?
I think they are a danger to us. I've been looking to this since the 60s and have become more and more convinced. At first, it was like, oh, wow, it'd be so cool to see a flying saucer, so cool to meet an alien, take a flying trip around. But the more I researched it and the more I wrote books about it, the more I became concerned. The problem with the UFO sightings is they're everywhere and they're becoming more and more prevalent. And we're collecting a lot of data, but we're not collecting what we need to know, in which is why are they here and what do they want? Are they here? I think they absolutely are. Even the federal government admits that there are UAPs and that, it just, they exist. They don't know what they are. I think they do, but they're not telling us that part of it. I think they are a danger. They have caused damage to property. They have caused people to be ill. They have caused people to die. And I don't mean just one or two people. I'm talking about a lot of people, not to mention the abductions and also disappearances, permanent ones. America, we average around 60,000, according to the FBI. I had a more conservative figure when I figured it out, it was more like 55,000. But the FBI says 60,000 people a year disappear in America alone, and they disappear never to come back. And they are not, they've discounted people who were kidnapped, people who were murdered, people who tried to just disappear and start a new life under a new ID. That's not included in this. And people say, oh, yeah, but a lot of those people chose to or probably were kidnapped. No, that has been taken out of the equation. Now, if you take that 60,000 that have disappeared permanently and you multiply that times every country on Earth, different countries, different populations. Um, for instance, Australia claims around 28,000 people disappeared one year, and their population is only around, what, 24, 25 million, something like that. So that's a big percentage. The Alaska Triangle, 7% in a 15-year period, 7% of the Alaskan population disappeared, never to be seen or heard from again. And when I say disappeared, I mean utterly, including their clothing, anything they were carrying, permanently. So if UFOs are behind this, where are they taking them, and why aren't they bringing them back? And why do they bring some back, but a lot of people apparently they don't? What are they doing with us?
And hold right there, because that's actually a great place to stop. We're gonna actually coming up to the first break of the night, and we'll get back to this on the other side of the break. Guys, as we are gonna definitely get into a great, interesting conversation here tonight with Rob Schelsky. So make sure that you don't go anywhere, and actually go make a phone call, call a friend, tell them the show is on, have them tune in, and we'll see you right back here after the break.
Can you still hear me?
All right, we are clear. We are clear. And yes, I can hear you still, and so can everyone else on YouTube.
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
I said, yeah, so we're still live on YouTube right now on this break.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I've never had so much problem with my audio in my life as I have tonight. It's like something going against me. I had to completely shut down the entire computing system and reboot it to get it to work right.
But see, I'm a former troubleshooter by trade, so you're going through the troubleshooting steps, which is awesome.
I think anyone who owns electronics becomes a troubleshooter.
Let's say power on, power off first. Let's start there, and then
start there. Make sure it's plugged in. All that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, definitely interesting. I've been looking forward to speaking to you. I checked out some of your other conversations, and that's why I look for people who I think can definitely add to the conversation. And you're bringing some good information here tonight. So can't wait to really get into this. Also, since we didn't get to talk before the show, you've been on here before, right? I think back in 2019.
Yeah, I have been on. Yeah. I don't know if it was called After Hours at the time, but I've been on the show. Yeah,
you were on with
Radio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this we take these breaks every 30 minutes, 5-minute breaks. So the next break, actually, at the top of the hour, we will be off camera. And then the next break after that, we'll be back on camera again. Last 30 minutes is what we usually save for the audience questions. So this time should fly by pretty quick. A lot of intelligent people out there in the audience too, like Shelley Montgomery and Ian McFadden. And let's see. Says Rob G, do you charge for that remote service? I must have missed that joke. I missed it, Ian. I missed it. Tell me what I said. I can't remember. I'm sure it was funny. Um, let's see. Paul Scott as well. Thanks for coming on in. And let's see. Amy, thanks for coming in. And okay, I see. Okay, Paul, I see a question you posted, and I think your new name. So what we do here is we put all questions in caps. That way, it's easier for me and my old eyes to make sure I pick up on your question. So I got it though, and just for anyone else out there, please put any questions in caps. Um, Yeah, and I think we're pretty current here. Let's see. Oh, the computer fix, bro. Ah, yeah. Okay, yeah. I used to fix Apple computers, Macs, and things like that. Ian. So I was pretty good at what I did too. So yeah, I do charge for remote service. Hit me up, Mr. RobG at gmail.com.
Yeah. I noticed Amy was mentioning about scoop marks. My brother did have a scoop mark on his leg, on his thigh, and he has no idea how he got it, nor does he know what that black, gray piece of material was that came out of his arm. He asked me if he should get hypnosis, do regression to try to find out what about the missing time. I told him no, and he asked why, and I said because unless you're going to a highly reputable hypnotist, even there's danger that you can plant false memories. Anything they tell you to remember, like for instance, past lives under hypnosis, if you haven't had one, the human mind is very resilient. It makes one up for you. And then when that person wakes up, they remember it as being a real memory rather than just something that the mind was trying to respond to the hypnotist by giving them what they wanted. So I told him, I said, if you have that information, you need to go to a real reputable and well-known hypnotist because you don't, once they do it, and if they do it wrong, then your data is tainted. You will never know if it was real or not. And so he had avoided that. I did ask him, uh, Mike, if you're on your deathbed, would you want to know the answer about all of this? Because he was in Vegas, and I mean, he was researching Area 51. His friend John, that was with him in the desert when they were 16, moved his entire family from San Diego to Las Vegas to further the pursuit. Because when my brother called him, he said, I didn't remember that till just now. I said, yeah, that's me. My brother's saying that. And so he ended up moving his whole family. And for years they did it. And then my brother dropped it entirely like a hot potato. And that's when I asked him that question about if you were on your deathbed, would you like to know? And his answer was, it depends. And I said, on what? And he said, on whether or not it's a good answer. And that kind of hit me hard because we all would like the answers, but what if the answers aren't good? I'm not sure if these creatures are moral or immoral or just amoral, but they don't seem to care what happens to us or our vehicles or our planes or our ships at sea. We have had planes try to intercept them back in the 50s. They were over the Great Lakes. The plane disappeared. No parts of it were ever found. I mean, this sort of thing goes on all the time. Now, maybe a few of these might be accidents on our part, like we ran into the
Oh,
thing.
hold right there, Rob. We're getting back to the show right now. We'll talk about it. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. Me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And we're joined in hours 1 and 2 tonight by author, UFO experiencer, MUFON investigator, Rob Schelsky. We're going to be getting into a really heavy conversation here tonight, so make sure you don't go anywhere. We would love to hear from you tonight, too, so make sure you put your questions out there as we get right back into the conversation with Rob Schelsky. So, Rob, right as the break was coming in, you were referring to the amount of people that just essentially go missing every year and never come back. You said 60,000, which is insane. And just for people to know, that's that don't come back. There's like reported every year, something like I think 600,000 or something like that, some crazy number here in the United States. But it's cool to have that number 60,000 never coming back, because here's my theory, and you can continue to elaborate. But I always ask that question: what about the ones that don't come back? Because We only hear stories from abductees that have actually been brought back, obviously, because dead men tell no tales. So, if you wouldn't mind continuing on that thought that you were going with earlier.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's difficult to know what they want, but we really have got to know. That's why I joined MUFON and became a field investigator. We need the data. My problem with MUFON over the last few years was that it became increasingly, I don't want to have to say the word politicized, but for me it was. And my state director here of MUFON also decided to back out of the organization at that point, and I followed suit shortly after that. It began to become vague, like, oh, there are space brothers. And even one lady who was on the board claimed to be in channeling an alien who'd been dead for like 50,000 years. As far as I know, she's still on the board, but that's when I decided to drop out of it. But people get irradiated, people get sick, people disappear, people die, property is damaged. Uh, Let me make it simple for you. When is the last time you heard of a UFO doing something nice for people, like Hansel and Gretel being in the woods and the aliens shining a light from their craft down to guide them out of the woods? Just something on that, or a house on fire where the people were translocated from the burning bedroom to outside of the house. You can count the number of so-called good things they did on literally two hands, no more. Some people say, "Oh, well, I had cancer. Then after I was abducted, I no longer have the cancer." Yes, well, if you're part of an experiment with the aliens, then maybe they don't want you to die. Maybe they want to see their experiment with you to a conclusion, so they would cure it in that case. But we're talking like 6 or 7 people, and they're saying there are space brothers. I would love to believe they are, and maybe there are some aliens or interdimensional beings out there that are space brothers. But to put it bluntly, what bloody good are they? I mean, if you're being abducted, if you're being harassed by UFO while you're driving, if you're being irradiated, if your property is being damaged, and the Space Brothers, the argument is, well, they don't want to interfere. They don't want to, they want to let us progress in our own way. Well, we wouldn't be, would we, if other aliens are busy murdering us and kidnapping us? You'd think they would at least stop them from doing it or try to help us in that regard. So if there are Space Brothers, they're not much good, are they? I mean, really, think about it. I mean,
No,
I don't think there are space brothers at all. I don't think they necessarily mean harm to us, but I think they just don't care. It's like stepping on an anthill.
yeah.
I just don't think they care.
There's 8 billion of us. So yeah, I mean, if one or two happens to, fall at the hands of an experiment, it's not real, you just kind of move on. There's 8 billion more subjects out there. So yeah, you can see a world where that would make sense. And that's why when we get down to it, that's why I'm like, is as you said, clearly, just show an example of them doing something good or helping out in some way. We can definitely point to times where they didn't help out and where you felt like
Exactly.
if they were here to do so, then they should have probably stepped forward. So, with that being said, and then there's these different species out there. What do you think that interaction is like? Do you think these species come across each other because they do visit, and it's like, I wonder up there in outer space, do they actually come across each other and interact in any way? What would you think? Like,
Uh, I'm not even sure there is more than one species. I'm not sure they're from outer space. I'm not sure they're not interdimensional. I mean, we just don't know. We do
mm,
know that they seem to break the laws of physics. Now, that means they could travel from another star to here, possibly in a hurry, uh, almost instantaneously, perhaps. Or perhaps they also are from the future, or maybe they are from another star system, but they have been here a long time. Historical records date way back. And there is some intriguing evidence that they might be on the moon or have been on the moon in the past. I've written a couple books about that as well. But I've written one book was Deadly UFOs and the Disappeared, and that kind of sums up my attitude. I I just don't see the evidence that there are space brothers. I wish I could. I would love to feel that there's someone watching out for us, taking care of us, stopping a nuclear war if it starts, that kind of thing. I don't see it. All I see is harassment with our military bases, with our aircraft, with our ships, with people. It just goes on and on. And for every tiny incident where someone might have felt helped by an alien, I can give you hundreds of accounts of where they were just the opposite. So
And
what
that's
can
the
I
thing.
say?
That's the thing. That's why it puzzles me every time I hear someone say there is no UFO threat narrative. There is no threat narrative. And I say I beg to differ. And I just point to a few like the Fred Valentic incident out in Australia. You had Tom DeLonge come out a few years back and talk about how there was this UFO that was shooting energy beams at these houses and catching them on fire. They go out there to kind of investigate. A USO pops up out the water, shoots the helicopter, and I'm like, "Come on, this is aggressive. Like, what do you? You can't perceive it to be anything else but that." And so that it took me further to say, okay, if these things are showing aggressiveness at different points in times, is it possible that governments are looking at these things from an adversarial standpoint? And so when they say things like these are adversarial, potentially adversarial craft, well, then are you really saying that they're extraterrestrial and you're saying adversarial because you also look at them as adversaries, just extraterrestrial adversaries essentially? What do you think about that?
I think they have to be considered adversarial. Whether or not the government has made a deal with them and said, okay, you can take a few of our people in exchange for some technology, I don't know. But it is odd to see that from about 1945 on, our technology just exploded. And America was at the forefront. And we always think of the Japanese as having been very good with electronics. Well, the transistor was invented in Bell Labs right here in the United States. The microchip was invented right here in the United States. Now, granted, other countries, including China and Japan, were very good at taking that knowledge and building on it with transistor radios, TVs, and all that sort of thing. But it was America's technology that just exploded, and it keeps on exploding. Uh, we're reaching the point where they think we're going to have a technological singularity in a matter of a few years, like literally maybe next year, but no later than probably 2030. So, where are we getting all this technology from? Is this a natural progression? From the beginning of human history to about 1955, the sum total of human knowledge took that long to get to that point in 1955. Then, after that, every 15 years, it doubled. And each time after that, it took half the time to double again. So, we're rapidly reaching a point of technological explosion where we simply don't know what the results will be. But it's got to be coming from somewhere. And either we're very good at technology or we've been getting a little help along the way.
Yeah, either we have some brainiacs in Silicon Valley or we're getting a little extraterrestrial. I think influence, if anything, because I'm not with the reverse engineering. I don't know that we have the ability to reverse engineer something that wasn't even created on this planet. There's elements and things we don't have here that I'm sure they have where they come from that wouldn't allow us to recreate some of the things that they have. So just looking at it like that, when you coming from this mindset of these things haven't really shown any good intentions, you have the love and light people out there who will say at that point, well, they've been here all this time and they haven't done anything to us yet. They would have done something by now. I know you hear that a lot, and what do you say when you hear that?
Well, that's a valid point. They don't seem to have interfered too much in the present time, if you don't count all the, tic tacs buzzing around our ships and airplanes and stuff. But they don't seem to like us interfering with them, and that's when jets might get destroyed or people get killed. The Soviets went into Lake Baikal and they went skin diving there, 7 of them or more, and this alien saucer was down there, and these creatures swam towards them. They tried to get away, and as a last resort, they literally jumped to the surface so fast that 3 of them were smashed into a decompression chamber that was no bigger or not big enough for more than 2 people. As a result,
Hmm.
they all came out injured and crippled. Now this just goes on and on and on, and yeah, I think we can reverse engineer to a certain point within reason. I mean, if you gave a television set to the ancient Greeks, there isn't much they could do with it, but they could figure out, if it was a 1970s TV, for instance, that the casing was wood, that the picture appeared in the glass tube, If they could make something like that, they might be able to, but if they don't have the technology, they have to wait. And I think we've had to wait, but slowly we've been learning more. Once you know something can work, it's a lot easier to make something that does work. Right now, we don't know if faster than light travel is possible, but if we were sure it was, we could come up with it probably much quicker than if we weren't sure it could be. So there you go.
Do you feel like the alien presence is here walking amongst us? Like not necessarily in the aspect, because a lot when people say that, it's like, okay, they're walking around us in daily life, like you walking right past one and you don't know that that's an extraterrestrial. I'm talking more so covertly, where nightfall hits and they land somewhere discreet, they get out and they start roaming around Earth. Do you feel like they do that? I think they do. I feel like they should.
Yeah, I do think they do that. I don't know if they can masquerade as one of us, although the Nordics probably could get by with it if you believe the Nordics exist, aliens. But yeah, I think they land. We've had reports of time that you must have heard about the jet from Mexico that flew to I think it was the Bahamas, and then was deadheading back, and was only the crew on board, and they saw a bright light in the cabin. One of the uh, flight attendants went to get the crew coffee, and on the way back, she looked out the window, and the ship was empty. I mean, the plane was completely empty except for their own crew, and they were mostly sleeping. It was late at night, and she saw something on the window, out of the window on a wing. She kind of ignored it, thought it was her imagination after the bright light, maybe getting a little too imaginative. So she got the coffee and took it back and looked out the window and saw it again. So she told the people in the cabin, and one of them came back and he yelled. He said, "There's three of them out there, literally on the wing. Look, like something out of Twilight Zone." Now, how these creatures could do that is beyond me, but they think they might have enclosed the ship in some kind of magnetic field, because all sound from the engine stopped, although the plane kept flying, so it was deadened. And perhaps that's how they were able to access the wing without getting blown off. They simply put it in a form of stasis. But the whole crew talked about this, but they didn't do it for years because they knew that if they did, they would no longer fly, that it was against commercial airline policy to talk about it. And they did not want to lose their jobs. But they did come out later and talk about it, the flight attendants and the pilot, co-pilot. So yeah, I think they interfere with us. I think they come down to Earth. Even the Mothman UFO was sighted not long before he first appeared. So there you go. Is he an alien? I don't know. Or
Yeah,
just a cryptid.
there's a video that I always go back to, and I still stand on, and it's called on the internet. It's called the Dobby alien video. If you've seen that in Colorado, the where it's an entity that kind of walks down the driveway and caught on the Ring camera, and I feel like that was actual video of extraterrestrial. I still kind of I'm 90% on that, and because it fits the description of the Hopkinsville extraterrestrial from 1955, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where these big-eared silver beings were kind of approaching the house. You hear a lot of people talk about how extraterrestrials can kind of materialize through walls and things like that, but these particular extraterrestrials from Hopkinsville could not get in. They were attempting to get in physically through the doors and windows, and so this extraterrestrial, which I believe it was in Colorado 2019, exhibited the same behaviors and had the same general appearance as what was talked about then. So it just showed to me that, wow, there are these things literally walking around as you're sitting in your house, potentially something walking up to your door or walking past your house or something along that nature. It makes it pretty scary. So when you look at something like this three-eye atlas, right, that's going to be coming into the solar system, or it's already in the solar system, it's going to be arriving or passing closest, I think, in November, they said. What if that were to be an alien craft? What runs through your head when you think about that?
Well, number one, it's not going to pass close to us. It'll be its closest approach will be November, but I believe it'll be on the other side of the sun even at that
Yeah.
point. I don't think it's going to get much closer to us than where Mars is right now. That just same kind of distance, which is millions of miles. What is Mars is anywhere from 45 to 62 million miles, depending on where it is in its orbit. But yeah, I think it's. But could it be something more? Uh, I did think so at first that it could be, but as it gets closer into the system and we view it more, it looks more and more like it's a comet, and it's not nearly as big as we thought it was. It's I mean, it's big, but it's not nearly as big as it's. They used to think it was about what 30 miles or more in size, but now it's down to about 7 miles, anywhere from they said anywhere from 2 to 7 miles. So it's shrinking in size as they get more and more information, and it does outgas like a comet. Now, Maya, that was a little different. I don't know how that managed to gain acceleration as it was leaving the solar system. That to me was a more likely candidate. But you're talking about objects that are still bound by physical laws as we know them. So those things had to have spent millions of years in outer space just to get from the nearest star grouping. And this thing supposedly came from much farther away. They think, based on its orbit, or not so much orbit as passing through, that if you backtrack it, it comes from closer to the center of the galaxy. So that must have taken millions upon millions of years to get here. I can't believe any race would go to that effort. You know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes me feel that way. Just that long travel for a climactic. Here we are, and it's like they would, if they were reinforcements, they would have needed to have been called thousands of years ago. So it that part of it did make sense to me. Now, I will say, as far as the latest from Avi Loeb, I know he said what they were depicting as a comet tail, or it was what it really was or really is like a dust shield around the front of this device. Like it has like a millimeter thick dust that's covering the front of it. And so Avi Loeb last said he didn't see any tail on it, but obviously they're continuing to watch it. I'm
Well,
just thinking of yeah.
I did hear just quite recently, like yesterday, that it does seem to be forming a tail, and they've even detected certain types of gases in the halo around it,
Okay.
including a little bit of water vapor. So, but if you think about it, what they said was that thing was so far away when it started its journey that Earth and the solar system didn't exist yet. They think that comet must be, what was it? They said up to 8 billion years old. Well, the solar system's only about 4.5, 5 billion years old tops. So that thing started its journey long before our solar system even formed. So they weren't coming here. It was, I think it's just a comet or an asteroid that has comet-like qualities to it. And I just, I kind of shame in a way because I'd like it to be something more, but something friendly. But I don't think it is. I think it's just. But we'll learn a lot from it because it is from another place a long, long time ago.
Yeah, and at the very least, as I was saying earlier, it'd be a great comet show, or it'd be uh, invasion potentially with billions of entities on board a however many mile wide craft. I think what's more plausible is the whole base on the other side of the moon thing. And I know you've written books about that. So you've had Darker Side of the Moon. They are watching us, and then you had Hollow Moon, which I don't know if I go with Hollow Moon too much. I do believe Darker Side of the Moon that they are definitely that'd be the perfect place to be if you didn't want to be on Earth, but you wanted to be close enough. That makes sense. When you were
Well,
writing that, like, what was your idea behind that? How do you think that plays itself out?
well, I was on Coast to Coast Radio a number of years ago, and they asked that one of the people in the audience asked the question, "What do you think about the hollow moon?" And I completely poo-pooed it. Oh no, it's ridiculous. There's no such thing as a hollow moon. How could it be hollow? It affects the tides. It pulls on us. It can't be hollow. But then I started researching it just out of curiosity, and I'm not going to say the moon is hollow, but it probably does have large cavernous areas inside of it, lava tubes at the
Yeah.
very least. But think about it. The moon is the high ground, and any military organization on Earth will tell you that they should always occupy the high ground. What better place to watch over us, and well, not so much watch over us as to watch us, and and keep us under control. And you're right; it would be the dark side of the moon. But also, there's a lot of oddities about the moon that none of the theories about the moon's origin explain. Not even the latest one, which is Theia impacting the Earth, causing the moon to form in out of a ring of material that came off our planet. For one thing, the moon seems to be composed almost entirely of Earth's mantle, and yet even so, a lot of the isotopic signatures of the materials on the moon are not the same as on Earth. And this is weird because if it came from Earth, it should have the same isotopic signatures. The moon has a lot of helium-3, which is almost non-existent on Earth. And by the way, it makes for great fuel for fusion reactors. The moon's soil, the first 3 layers on the moon that the astronauts drilled into, is in reverse. The heaviest layer on top and the lighter layers underneath. This is not normal, unless you were pumping material out from the center to hollow out a space, in which case it would be reversed. It'd be just like that. There's Neptunium-237, I believe, on the moon. It only has a half-life of a little over 2 million years. On Earth, it's completely disappeared. It has to be manufactured in the old expression, atom smasher, for instance. But you don't find it any other way. And yet it appears on the moon. There shouldn't be any on the moon if the moon's as old as the Earth. There's a lot of things. Historical records talk about a time before there was a moon. Aristotle referred to the proselynes in Greece, the people that lived in Greece before his people came there, and they were called the proselynes. It literally means before there was a moon. Native tribes in South America and Central America talk about they have ancient legends or stories. We call them myths. They don't. And they always start the stories with in a time before there was a moon. Now, mind you, there's Venus, there's Mars, there's Jupiter. They could all see these from Earth. Why was it always the moon that came late on the scene for all in recorded history? The Romans talked about it, the Greeks talked about it, the Amerindians talked about it in the New World. So that's pretty intriguing too. And that's actual written records referring to some of this stuff. Then on top of that, you have strange phenomena on the moon called transient lunar phenomena. And this has gone on, NASA commissioned a report on it, and they said, don't go back more than 500 years because before that, there were no telescopes. So they wanted more reliable information from that time forward. But the moon has shown flashes of light, blue lights, tracking lights across the surface, blue glows. In fact, one crater on the moon is so infamous for its blue glow, which it shouldn't have at all, that they refer to it as the blue gem. And it's the Aristarchus crater on the moon. That's the name of it, and it's referred to by astronomers, not me, as the blue gem. There have also been...
Let's hold right there, the blue gem. We'll pick this up on the other side of the break here as we're coming up to our top of the hour break, getting into some really awesome conversation here with author, UFO researcher, MUFON investigator, Rob Schelsky. Guys, you're not going to want to miss the rest of the show. Make sure if you go anywhere, you come right back right after the break.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we're clear. We're off camera for 5 minutes. See you back here in a minute, Rob.
Sure.
All right. Yes. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, after hour number 2, as we get ready to come back from radio break here. About 30 seconds. Let me go ahead and bring our guest back on stage, Rob Schelsky, and got about 25 seconds here till we come back from break. Guys, this is the hour for questions. I've saved a lot of them here, and we'll be asking them at the end of the hour. Rob, if for some reason we run into a wall at the end of the hour, are you able to stay about 15 extra minutes after the top of the hour break?
Certainly.
Okay,
Certainly.
appreciate
I
it.
kind of owe you that, don't I?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are back in the building here with Rob Schelsky, who is an author, UFO experiencer, paranormal investigator, MUFON investigator. We're going to be getting into a lot of great stuff here, as we already have. If you missed hour 1, it was awesome. Hop in the archive, totally free. YouTube.com/at Spaced Out Radio, as we get back into the conversation with Mr. Rob Schelsky here. And Rob, right at the break, we were getting into, you were talking about tracking lights that have been seen on the moon, and then also an infamous crater called blue something. Go ahead and pick up where you left off there.
Okay, it's called the blue gem because it glows blue so often. It even glowed blue when the first Apollo 11 was flying over it. They don't know why. They thought at first it might be because it's near the edge of the side of the moon that faces us, and maybe the sun rising kind of made it do that. But all the other craters around it, and there are thousands, don't do that. Now, they did do a spectral analysis on it once, and they found out that the spectral analysis showed the exact same spectrum as the radiation you get, the light you get from a fusion reactor.
Wow.
Now, isn't it odd that the moon has all this helium-3, and the spectrum from the Aristarchus crater shows the glow is the same spectrum as that you'd get from a fusion reaction. I believe there was even Cherenkov radiation involved, they said. But and also the moon rings like a bell. When it's struck, it vibrates. And the vibrations don't go through the core. So one scientist at NASA said, either there is no core or it's made of something we don't know what it is. And another scientist at NASA, I believe it was McDonald, said it would be easier to explain that the moon doesn't exist than to explain that it does exist, because it's so strange, it's so odd. Our side of the moon has all these dark patches. We call them Maria. We thought they're lava flows. The other side of the moon doesn't have any. The other side of the moon's crust is thicker than the near side. Now, if you're pumping out material from the interior of the moon to create a cavern, you'd end up with large lava fields, wouldn't you? I mean, again, it's all circumstantial evidence, but it's intriguing evidence. Not to mention that they have sighted things on their way to the moon, tracking them. One shuttlecraft said, "There's something following us," and not a shuttlecraft, but Apollo. And they said, "Oh, it's probably an old booster trailing behind you." And they said, "No, I can see that. It's right over there. This is not that. I don't know what this is, but it's following us." And it followed them all the way to the moon, whatever it was. I was watching NASA live stream one time, and they had a female commander. It was a shuttlecraft in orbit around the Earth, and she's looking out the window and she's talking. You see her floating, in the cabin. It's all cool. And all of a sudden she says, "Oh, there's that alien spacecraft again." And immediately the sound was cut. She was still talking. Her lips were still moving, but they had switched her off to a private channel. And by the way, that video has since disappeared from the internet, but it happened. I was there and I saw it happen. And so I think there's a lot going on that we don't know about. Now, are these actual aliens from another solar system or stellar system? Actually, we're the only solar system in the universe because our sun is Sol, so our system is named for the Sol solar system. Other star systems are just that, stellar systems. But so where do they come from? I don't know. They seem to be close around us. We don't seem to see them too far away. By the way, there is one other planet that might have a hollow moon in our solar system. Can you name it? Take a guess.
I would go with Jupiter.
Nope. Actually, it is Mars. The only other planet that might have had life at one time, or might even have it now to some degree, if only microbial, also has a moon that is too light. It's not dense enough for its size, so they conjecture it might be hollow, and that is the moon Phobos. They
Yeah.
thought originally these were captured asteroids, Deimos and Phobos, fear and terror, and they aren't in the right orbit. In fact, the orbit of Phobos is such that it's degrading rapidly. Within less than 3 million years, it probably will crash into Mars. Won't hurt it. It's just a large rock. But, well, it won't hurt it any more than anything else has hurt it. So, but the Soviets sent 2 probes. You can look it up on the internet and you can actually see the photos. It took a picture of Phobos and there was a large cylindrical object, white, right near the moon, bigger than the moon itself was. Then in the next photo, it disappeared, and then the probe stopped working. All communication failed. The second probe also failed as soon as it got close to Mars. So this sort of thing goes on a lot. And in fact, it is harder for us to get something to Mars than any other planet practically in the solar system and have it survive. Roughly 50% of all objects that we've sent to Mars, not just NASA, but Japan, China, Russia, failed. So, and yet we don't know why, because we can send stuff to Venus and get it in orbit, but we can't seem to get it to. We can get it to Mars, but it has a high failure rate, and we're not quite sure why that is compared to some of the other planets. I mean, we've gotten probes out past Pluto safely, but we can't seem to get them reliably to Mars.
So I would, when you talk about hollow moon, then it sounds more like you're talking about hollow in the mindset that something may have dug out caverns underneath the surface, which I could see that. It's just the hollow moon that I'm talking about is the fully manufactured, completely artificial moon. I just don't know about that. It makes sense that you would have something that would land on a rock like the moon. Like even we would probably do this, find a good spot where we could kind of still see this other planet, but be out of sight. And then we would likely try to get from, with no atmosphere there, try to get under the surface to be protected from asteroids and things like that. So it makes sense that that would be the way to go. And I could definitely see that happening. What would you think they're doing up there on the moon? You think they're sitting on a base and trying to figure out what they're going to do here on Earth? Or if you had to guess, what do you think is taking place up there?
I think it's more than a base. I think it's quite a vast area, probably, because the moon's density, like Phobos, is too low. In fact, it's almost low enough to where it could float in the ocean if we're on the Earth. Its density per square centimeter is considerably lower than the density of Earth, which we can't account for because if it's made from Earth material, it should be the same density, right? But it's not. Also, there's another strange oddity about the moon. The small craters have very deep centers. The large craters don't. Now, 2 Soviet scientists that belonged to the Soviet Academy in the 70s wrote a paper, an actual astronomical paper that they submitted for public review, not only in Russia, but around the world, and it referred to the spaceship moon theory. And they said that if they had built a shell of hard material like metal, about 25 miles down below the moon's surface, that if a small meteor hit the moon, it could burrow quite deep into the soil, a small asteroid, meteor, whatever, and that would leave a deep hole in the center of the crater. Well, the small craters are exactly that way. However, the large craters have very flat interior areas. And they said it's as if something that big went further into the moon, hit that inner shell and bounced back. And that's what flooded those craters with molten rock. So they're pretty good. Again, it's not a smoking gun, but I wouldn't want someone to point that gun at me and say, what do you think the chances are of surviving?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. And I wanted to make sure we show. So for the radio audience, I'm about to show with the supposed monolith on Phobos, and you can find this online. If you Google Phobos monolith, Phobos is PHOBOS, and for our YouTube audience, you'll be able to see this here. If I can make sure it comes up. Okay, yep, it's up. And let me zoom in on that if we can. So that is the supposed monolith on the face of Phobos, and are you able to speak to this? What have you heard, or what do you know about this here, Rob?
Yes, it's an oddity because there's nothing else like it anywhere around. I believe it's near one of the what you'd call one of the poles of the moon. It's really not round. It's more of a chunk of big rock. Or now scientists conjecture. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's they also talk about trails of craters that radiate from that pole down around Phobos in straight lines, or actually curved lines because it's not a straight flat surface, but definite lines. If you ever look at photo of Phobos, take a look at that. It's quite apparent. We have it on the moon too, at the South Pole. If you look at the very south pole of the moon, there's a large crater, and around it are a spiral of smaller craters that go out from the center. We don't know how that can be possible, but it is. Also, there seems to be an object about the size of Hawaii that may be solid metal buried in the moon there. Now, any asteroid as big as Hawaii striking the moon probably should have shattered it. Whatever this is, we don't know what it is, but it has a high density, the same as metal would be. So we're thinking it might be metal. It may be a very, very large metallic asteroid, approximately the size of the island of Hawaii. The one named Hawaii, not all the islands together. And so we can't account for that. Now, the density on Phobos is such that if you were to throw a baseball, it would simply go off into space. It doesn't have enough gravity to stop it. But the problem with the density is they've tried to come up with an explanation. And they said maybe it's a bunch of rocks that were broken up and slowly came together as a conglomerate, and they're loosely packed. But it doesn't look like that. It looks like it's quite a solid moon, doesn't it, when you look at it? We don't know how that monolith got there. We can tell the height of it, by the way, by the shadows, basic geometry. So that is one thing that helps us with it. And also,
how tall is it supposed to be?
I'm sorry?
How tall is that monolith supposed to be?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the number myself, but I remember it was considered to be quite tall, actually. It was in the range of, no, I don't want to give you a number because probably it's wrong. I can't. It's been a long time since I wrote a book on Mars too, and that was in the book on Mars, but that was about 8 years ago, so I honestly can't remember the exact height of that. But I remember that it goes up quite high, actually. By the way, there are monoliths like that on Mars too. And judging by their shadows, those things go up hundreds of feet, and we can't account for that either.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, says it's about 85 meters or 279 feet across, and then 90 meters or 300 feet tall.
That's bigger than I thought. I was thinking it was about 20 or 30 meters, but it's a lot higher than even I was remembering it being. Now, the ones on Mars are even taller than that. So it's a little spooky. An interesting fact about Mars is it's got the biggest volcano in the solar system. We don't know why.
It's like 3 miles high or something like that. Yeah.
It's so high that the top of it actually juts out of the atmosphere of Mars. Mons Olympus.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Something on that scale. And I know there's some questions that have been posed here tonight about Mars, so we'll be talking about that as well. But let me look at going back to the, fact that we're not sure why these things are here. They could be on the dark side of the moon, and then also coming down here to visit and landing, getting out of their craft. They've been observed at times coming in and out of our oceans and even lakes and rivers in some cases. And here was my thought, because I talked to someone one time who had built a map in regards to a lot of the USO cases. And then UFO, I think there was UFO cases in general, and it showed that a lot of them were grouped up around the coastlines, which makes sense because it's large population areas. But then also, I'm here in California, Southern California, about an hour north of LA. So I've had my own UFO sightings with these white objects, maybe Tic Tacs, or I don't know what they were, but with the Tic Tacs being rumored to be right off the coast of California. To me, when I first heard that, I thought about just being strategic as far as warfare goes, and being like right off the coast of major cities in an effort maybe to, have the best chance to kind of formulate some sort of assault, or, if that were going to be the case. It just seems like, just like with our submarines, we position them right off the coast of adversaries if we need to go ahead and activate, they're there. And it almost seems like that's kind of where these things are looking like. What is your perspective on that? Like, do you think they're strategically positioned in order to do something if they needed to or wanted to?
No, I don't, because they've been spotted coming out of even volcanoes, and that's not particularly strategic. But yeah, there've been UFOs spotted around erupting volcanoes, for instance. Uh, did you know Columbus spotted spotted UFOs
Yes.
when he hit the New World? Excuse me, I didn't soda here, but they came up out of the water on the horizon. It's in his logbook. You can actually read the original log of Columbus, and it talks about these lights that came up out of the water and seemed to dance around in the distance and then flew off. So I think they've been here a very long time. You know, even the Greeks, the historian for Alexander the Great talked about when he was invading India. They're at the Indus River getting ready to cross it, when their armies were buzzed by flying silver shields, as they were called. And these frightened the soldiers, maddened the war elephants, and caused a great deal of problems, to the point where his army no longer wanted to pursue going further in conquest into India. He stopped at the Indus River Valley, or Indus River. And so that was as far as Alexander made it. They turned back. Now, were they interfering to stop and change the course of history? Or, but I don't know that it's strategic necessarily. I'm wondering if they don't have bases underwater and haven't had them for maybe millennia. I think they've been with us all along. I really do, at least for thousands of years. The evidence seems to be there. There are Renaissance pictures that show UFOs painted into the sky in the background. This was pretty common back then. If you saw something in the sky that was odd or weird, it was a sign from God. So you put it in your paintings. And there are several that show this quite clearly in the Renaissance paintings. You can look them up on the internet. It's really easy to find them. So I think these things have been around a long time. I don't know if they're trying to guide us, watch us, or if they have always been here. They may be that they've always been on Earth and that they're just a distinct and separate race from us. Or they may be interdimensional, coming across and have been here a long time for that reason, coming and going. Could they be from another star system? Absolutely. We just don't know. And that's why I joined MUFON. I wanted answers.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike my brother, I want the answers. If I go to my grave, I'd like to know what the heck was going on during my life, you know?
Exactly. And what do you like? What type of patterns have you been able to put together over the time with working with MUFON? Anything that stuck out to you about what these things are? Or?
Well, an awful lot of the reports turn out to be, I won't say they're false, but they're mistaken. Only about 5% of reports seem to be actual genuine possibilities of being UFOs. But even if you only think 5% with the millions that have been reported, that's still a heck of a lot of UFOs. I'm not quite sure if they are alien to this world or if they're just something that we're not aware of. We don't know what's going on in the very deeps of the ocean. We don't. We thought we knew. We didn't think there was anything as like a giant squid. Turns out there is a giant squid.
Right.
You know, and that sort of thing. So we just don't know. I don't really buy the hollow Earth theory, but even that can't be entirely ruled out. Do I personally think the Earth is hollow? No, I don't. Modern science has pretty well figured out the density of the Earth and the size and the weight and what it should be. And to be that, it can't be hollow, at least not very hollow, if that's the case. Whereas the moon, the density is wrong. And so therefore we think the core might be hollow, or there might be an inner shell that's hollow.
So let me ask you this. So if we go with one of the theories that they've been here all this time, just here on this planet underwater and visiting from the moon for millennia, and so that would mean that they've coexisted with us parallel, which means potentially there is not a path where our lines intersect, which would be a contact moment or disclosure as far as we call it. What do you think the possibility of that is, that we actually have an intersecting path that ends up with us realizing they're here and like maybe even open dialogue between us and them? Is there a moment, do you think, that ever intersects where we have that moment?
We might. I believe we're getting soft disclosure. I don't think the government's ever going to give us hard disclosure, but it's starting to admit things bit by bit by bit, like the fact that there are UAPs. God forbid they should call them UFOs. Call them by a different name, and it's not nearly as scary, is it? But they have admitted that. So I think we're getting soft disclosure. Whether we will contact this race or not, I don't know. They don't seem to want to contact us directly. They do seem interested in us, highly interested in us. Um, but there are legends of lost races. For instance, in North Carolina, there's the legend of the Moon-Eyed People that the Cherokee Nation talked about. And we've actually found some evidence, not a lot, but some evidence that they existed. And they were very pale skinned. They had very large eyes, and they couldn't come out in the daylight. They had to stay, they could only come out at night. That's why they're called the Moon-Eyed People. And they were driven out supposedly by the Cherokees. And in one version of the story, they went underground. Did they go underground? Maybe. Did they go underwater? Maybe. But if you had a race that didn't collapse with its civilizations repeatedly, and they started out at about the same time we did, or even earlier, they would be far ahead of us. They might just think of us as an annoyance, but we're not interfering with their sphere of power, so to speak. We don't really know much about the depths of the ocean. In fact, what is it? Some 70% of the ocean still unexplored. So they could be down there. Yeah, they could be underground. We don't know. Or maybe it's a greater reality. We only see a very small part of the light spectrum. We see from red to high blue. Basically, indigo is the highest you can go, and then it becomes ultraviolet. And if you go too far the other way, it becomes infrared, which is heat. We don't see it, we feel it. But the thing here is, maybe the world is like that. Maybe Earth doesn't just exist in 3 dimensions. Maybe it exists in more. And maybe these people have always been here, and they're just not seen by us. Or maybe we do see them. Maybe shadow people are them moving around among us. Maybe they have invisibility cloaks. There's a Japanese professor in Japan that's created a pretty nice one. And we have cloaking devices, and we have stealth bombers, all that sort of thing right now. I wonder where we got that technology. But maybe they are here. And you can find evidence for that too. There's a case on the internet where a family's sitting in Mexico on their front porch on a dirt road. They're sitting there talking, and there's one guy on the left, and there's a whole row of them. It's like a straight veranda across the front, looking right down at the road. Someone across the road has a camera, and they're filming this party. A car goes racing by on the dirt road, raises a cloud of dust. And then shortly afterwards, something blurry goes by that looks almost like a motorcycle, but you can't really tell or see it. It's almost 99% invisible. But it raises dust, and only one person on the veranda seemed to see it. He got up, walked out into the middle of the road, and looked down the road after it. Now, what the heck that was, I don't know, but whatever it was basically invisible to us. Stealth technology, cloaking device, who knows? So maybe they are here. Maybe they're just cloaked. Maybe that shadow person you see in the corner of your room, out of the corner of your eye, is one of them.
Yeah, and here's I want to show you this because I always show people this. This is something I captured, which was a shadow person. And for people out there on the radio land, I'm just going to show this to our guest here, an actual shadow person. And I often wondered, I know there was a point in time where I'm like, okay, is this paranormal? And then I heard someone talk about an encounter where they had what they were suspecting to be abducted by aliens, and they had some footsteps on the roof, and they were thinking that those were aliens on the roof, and also talking about shadow people being aliens cloaked. And so I'll show you that. Actually, we're coming up to a break right now. So what we'll do is go ahead, get ready to jump into this break. Let me actually do this here for the guest. Let's see here. All right. This is shadow person. So this is taken right inside my hallway here. If you can see that, are you able to see that there? Let me bring that up more here.
Oh wow, that's creepy.
This was taken in the hallway. And
that's not your shadow?
Not my shadow.
There was no light behind you shining in that direction.
No light behind. So I'm not taking this picture. This picture was taken by my daughter. I actually wasn't even home at the time. It was close to midnight. I'll talk to you more about this right now. We're going to break. We'll be right back here on spacedoutradio, the After Hours radio show. Me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Awesome conversation happening, guys. Questions will be coming up soon. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll talk to you right after the break. All right, we are clear. We are clear. And if we could get rid of that spam in the chat, that would be awesome, mods. I know you got it. So, yeah, so basically, there's a light source here that you see in the hallway is actually in front of the camera. So behind the camera is actually a door, a closed door. So this light source you see in the image is above, in front of the camera. There is to the left of the corner there where you see the corner wall, to the left right there, there is a kitchen table and no light on there. And so you see the feet going all the way down to the floor. If this was a person standing there, the light source would have to be coming from behind the camera in order to project this. And yeah, she had her phone hanging on the door, and she was doing TikTok dances right there about where you see that door handle. And then she went into the bathroom, which is where that door is. While she's on FaceTime with her friends snapped the image, and then she comes out of the bathroom and they tell her somebody's in your house. And then so they send her the picture, and then she's all scared. And then I happen to walk in the house maybe 20 minutes after that from a road trip, and she shows me the picture. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, have you ever heard of shadow people? And she's like, no. And I was like, well, I think you should probably read on it. I didn't want to tell her what it was. Didn't want to scare her. She was like 14 years old. Like didn't want to scare her. So she researched it. I talked to her like the next day or the day after that. And I asked her, did you read and see what shadow person was? And she was like, yes. She was like, I was scared. I couldn't go to sleep all night. And I was like, yeah. And so this was just one of the things we had here at this house. We had so many different phantom knocking where no one is there. We have footsteps on the roof, UFO sighting right out here in the backyard with 47 objects. We have a side house connected to this house where we had orbs triggering the Ring camera floating around the room. All sorts of crazy stuff here. But
can I ask you, how old is the house?
I think it was built in the mid 90s, early 90s.
Okay, so it's not old enough where it would be considered haunted necessarily. So if it's not haunted per se, and I'm not sure I believe in ghosts or not, but I don't discount anything. I really don't, because I don't have the answers. So it'd be pretty daring for me to discount something. So apparently I think it is a shadow person. I think it's a true shadow person, not a ghost per se. And that's a little worrisome. I don't think I'd want to leave little children home alone like that. Yeah, that would be frightening. I wouldn't want to stay in the house if I saw that. Would you?
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I have a studio to the left of that wall, takes you out to the garage, and I have an outside room where I have a studio. And so anytime I'm in the studio and I come back in the house and I walk past that area, I always turn and look to see if I'm going to see something there. Ever since this photo happened, every time I walk past, I look over there to see if I see any shadow or anything. It's crazy. Like I can go down a list of crazy things that happened here at this house. We had a lady who came to the front door middle of the day. We're like 4 houses off the corner. Middle of the day. I'm in the office or the studio at the time. My girlfriend is in the front, right where that shadow is. And someone knocks on the door, and it's a random lady asking to come in. She's asking, could she come in the house and take a shower? And so it was weird and creepy. So we're like, my girl came and asked me. I'm like, no. So we tell her no, and then she leaves, and we're sitting there talking like, man, that was weird. That's strange. And I'm saying, I wonder if she went to the neighbor's house first, and then did she go to the other neighbors after? So we check our Ring cameras, which detect anything coming up the driveway, down the driveway. Nothing there. She did not come up on Ring camera walking up to the house or leaving the house. I don't know what that is. I can't say she was whatever, but she did not trigger the Ring camera coming up to the house or leaving. And it's
That's
triggered by
strange.
cars driving by. Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, that is odd. There was another case very similar to this, almost the exact same setup. It was an apartment. The front door was at the end of the hallway, and it looked just like that. And she was in the living room, and her dog started barking. Was standing, and she was around the corner off to would be my right, and when I'm looking at your picture, and she was curious what it was barking at, so she got up to look, and as she looked, that same shadow was standing right where it's standing now, but its head dipped out and then ducked back, but it was on the other side. And on the other side of your hallway here would be the kitchen for that house. And the kitchen was a galley kitchen. It was a dead end. There was no way in or out other than that door. So she thought it was the shadow of someone in the kitchen. So she ran and looked in the kitchen. Being alone, she was scared. Nothing. And there was no way for her to get out. It absolutely wasn't there. And yet the dog stood in the hallway and was barking like crazy when it saw it. She saw it. She got it on film. So was it real? Sure looked real to me.
We're coming back right now. Oh, Lord. All right, hold on. Can't believe that. Let me see. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. After hour number 2, back half of the second hour. Back with our guest, author, UFO experiencer, MUFON investigator, Rob Schelsky, getting into some really good conversation once again. We are talking UFOs. We are talking the truth that's stranger than fiction. If you missed any of the conversation, make sure you jump right on into the archive. Free, FREE, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. So as we jump back into this convo, so okay, we kind of talk about aliens maybe being able to cloak and then them being shadow people. That's been one of the things that I've thought about because initially I had a shadow person experience and I thought it was paranormal. And it was the thing that was I had to break my mind on is that it felt like I experienced every part of the phenomena. First, I had UFO, clear as day. I recorded it on video. We have that. Okay, then we have footsteps on the roof. I'm thinking maybe paranormal, shadow person. Okay, paranormal. Then the orbs in the sign house. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe paranormal. And so I'm like, what are the chances that you would have experiences with all the different parts of the phenomena back to back? Is it more likely that all of these things are related? And so that's when I heard the guy talk about the aliens, potentially being on his roof and his girlfriend being scared to come out the bathroom because they figured that they would be abducted. And then I thought about mine. So I was like, okay, we had a UFO sighting. We have footsteps on the roof. If that was extraterrestrial related, then is the shadow person thing potentially related to extraterrestrials? And I'm like, it'd be more likely that they were all related than them being separate things, separate parts of the phenomena. What do you think about that theory as I'm thinking through this?
Well, yeah, I think it would have to be that way, unless you're sitting at some sort of a nexus point where there's a weak line in our reality where different things can intersect from different dimensions. That would be the only other thing I could think of. But yeah, I think they'd have to be connected. I really do. And these things do seem to be connected. Here in North Carolina, we have the Brown Mountain Lights, and they're so prevalent and so common, and they've been around for centuries. The Native Americans thought they were the lights of the wives of warriors searching for their lost husbands on the hilltop. People say, well, they have to be swamp gas. No, they're not swamp gas. It's on the top of a mountain. No swamps on tops of mountains. They thought maybe it was headlights, except that these things have been around for at least 3 centuries, long before we had cars. They were first noted by settlers in the late 1700s, 1787. I'm pretty sure we didn't have automobiles then, but right. And the thing is, I went and witnessed them and photographed them. I was an investigative columnist for Alien Skin magazine, and These things came up. It was the fall. The trees had lost all the leaves. We're up high in the hills and we're looking across, and there's an actual state turnout that has a sign that says viewpoint for Brown Mountain Lights. They're that common. And you can watch these things, and they rise up slowly like a white globe, and they might change to red, but they go straight up. And it was very windy that day. So I know what they weren't. They weren't balloons. No balloon would have gone straight up for that length of time because this went on for 15, 20 minutes as you watch them rise from below on up. And they always were spherical, and they weren't helicopters. They weren't airplanes. They weren't drones. In fact, when I did it was back in the early 2000s. There weren't any drones around of any consequence back then. So no, it's I don't know what they were, but I can tell you what they weren't, and that's kind of how I feel about this whole phenomena. I can pretty much say what they're not to a certain degree, but I can't tell you what they are. Are these shadow people cloaks? If so, they're able to walk through walls. Maybe they're not cloaked like we know, but maybe they're actually out of phase slightly with our reality, and that means walls don't stop them. That could be the same thing the so-called grays or aliens are using to go in and out of houses. But if this is the case, then why do they walk up over roofs and things like that and come to windows but try to get into a house but can't seem to? I mean, do some of them not carry the pocket device that makes them able to do this? So many questions, and we have all this data pouring in from MUFON, huge database, but we need to start looking for patterns, correlating. We need to actually use that data, not just keep piling it up. I mean, what's the point of having an encyclopedia if you never open it and look at it, if you know what I mean? Can are there places where they constantly are coming? Are there certain situations? I mean, we do draw correlations, and I think we need to do more of that. We need to find some answers. It might mean our survival. This is not some minor issue anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's our survival. People say, well, they're not harming us. Let's just go on the way we are. Good luck. If they change their minds, they have the power to get rid of us. If they have that kind of physics technology.
Oh yeah, you have to believe that they have some sort of weaponry. Even if we haven't seen it be displayed, you would have to think if they're traveling vast distances that they have to have something along those lines. And one of the things that I look at is, as we talked about earlier, it's if they've been here this whole time for millennia, then we've been existing on parallel from each other. But and we talked about the intersecting lines, if they would intersect at any point. In that, I think there's maybe a few examples. Actually, I think I put together like 5 examples of where I felt like potentially, if we looked at this incident, it could be considered as maybe extraterrestrial contact or them attempting to contact us in some form. And that was like the list that I put together had the UFOs over Washington, where they were there for like 2 weeks. That would seem like a display saying, hey, we're here, guys. Hey, let's come to the table. So we have that. We have the aerial school where they landed, got out in front of all the kids. We had the Westall school where they did the same thing. We have the Phoenix lights where they just flew right over the city of Phoenix and thousands of people saw. And then we have even more recently the New Jersey drones, which if you were to believe that those were anomalous in any way, which I know a lot of people do, even though some may be prosaic, could that have also been like the most recent attempt at extraterrestrials attempting to tell everyone, saying, hey, we're here, let's come to the table? And if that was, just say it was an attempt, then we keep blowing it, and we keep moving past the moment and not taking advantage of something that could potentially be contact. And if we keep doing that, will we ever have the contact moment, even if they're trying?
I don't think they want contact. I really don't. Flying around drones it would be rather a stupid way of trying to make contact. Good way to observe us, maybe. Good way to watch what we're doing. Maybe even attack us if they had to. But to contact, no. I mean, land on the White House lawn. Land on the mall in Washington, D.C. Radio us, broadcast to us. If you have this kind of technology where you can bend physics like we can't do yet, you must have the ability to communicate by radio. And if you've been around here as long as I think they have, then why don't you? They may be like dolphins. They may be an intelligent species, but they're just so different from us. They have no interest in us. Some people say, well, maybe they're so advanced they see us as ants and not a. I'm sorry, but the more advanced we get, the more we seem to care about things and people. I mean, when we were primitive, murder, slavery was common. I mean, even the Bible talks about the right to own slaves in the Old Testament. But we've changed as we've evolved, and civilization has been slowly creeping upwards. And as we creep upward, we seem to develop more morals, more mores. Do we stick to them always? No, we don't. But at least we have them now. At least we now think slavery is wrong. At least we don't try to conquer all of our neighbors, although even that's getting a little questionable lately. But but
True.
poor old Canada. But I uh, I went to university in Canada. I have a very soft spot in my heart for Canada. But yeah, I just don't. Uh, I don't think they want to contact us. I think, first of all, if they're running experiments on us or observing us, they don't want to interfere with us too much. Although they do seem to do that on a regular basis too. But they don't seem to want to make open contact with us. But it may just be like the dolphin thing. They're just so alien that we don't. They may be intelligent, but we just don't aren't never going to be able to communicate with them. We don't know.
See, and that's the thing. I could see that as being the case because if they've been here so long and they haven't really, they had every opportunity to do so and they haven't, then maybe they don't want to contact us. But then it's when it's moments like aerial school where the craft lands in front of people, knowingly lands in front of people at a school, and then the beings get out and try to interface with children, and it's like, okay, what is that? What is that moment? Is that moment an attempt at contact because they're showing themselves? They've landed middle of the day, and then it's happened multiple times because there's at least 2 or 3 other school incidents where they've landed at schools in the middle of the day, and it's just like, why is that the case? Like, is
One
it?
was in Australia, yeah.
Yeah, the Westall School, and there was another one I can't think of the name of in the 70s, but it's just like, okay, those if we took everything else out the equation and only had those sightings, those it would seem like they were trying to do something there. And it's just like, okay, when is that next aerial school moment or Westall school moment where they say, and it's a White House lawn moment for me, because I think White House lawn, the equivalent is craft landing, beings getting out saying hello. And we have cases where they've done that. So that's why I'm like, okay, if we look at the drone sighting, because it was 2 months long, and Ross Coulthard even says they're still showing up today, then what is that? First of all, do you think the drones were us, or do you think that some of that was anomalous, or what do you think about that?
I don't know. The government gives us so much misinformation these days. It seems to be anything that they decide should be classified can be classified instantly. And if they were alien drones and they didn't want to say it, of course, they would say they were like 95% ours after they investigated. But the funny thing is, they say that, but then they never pin down exactly whose they are, do they? I mean, I've heard that they said, like, oh, yeah, 95% of the drone sightings in New Jersey were our own drones. Well, whose were they? The government's? The state? Private citizens? Let us know. Give me some information. Because without information, it's just hearsay. I mean, you can say anything you want to. I mean, just because a skeptic says, "Oh, it's just swamp gas," doesn't mean it is swamp gas. But if a scientist says it, everyone jumps on the bandwagon and says, "Oh yeah, they've determined it's swamp gas." No, they haven't. The scientists just threw that out as a possibility, but the media seizes on it every time, and the media is quick to change its direction too. It's so quick to move on. No, I don't think they want to contact us. The school things, if they landed there, and I read up on them. They didn't attempt to contact people particularly. They seem to ignore us. It's almost like that thing where they're humans and we're ants. They just don't seem to care. That's what I mean about being amoral. They don't seem to care one way or the other. They may not wish us harm, or they may not have a sense of morals like we have. They
Yeah.
may be so alien that they simply don't have a concept of morality. Our morality is strictly subjective. It's something we've created for ourselves based on what's good or not good for us as human beings. Don't do unto others what you'd have them do unto you. It protects them, it protects yourself. but they may be from a completely different form of evolution and simply not feel that way. They might be a hive mind, and they're just and these aliens that are landing are just like, oh, let's say fingers on a hand, sent to do something for them, but not really independent creatures in their own right. So we just don't know enough. We know the results, we know the consequences to some degree, but we just don't know how or why. Those are the big questions. Why are they here? How are they here? And of course, where are they from? Are they from the stars, another dimension, or from the future? We just don't know. But we need to know. And I think it's getting more and more pressing that we need to know, because whether they want contact or not, with all the cameras, all the phones, and all this other stuff going on now, all the recording devices, with our own technology growing, at some point, we're going to come to loggerheads. And they're either going to be friendly, they're going to be indifferent, or they're going to be foes. Right now, I'd say they're indifferent, but I don't think they've been particularly friendly.
What do you think about the future human element that people come up with? You think there's anything there as far as that goes? Anything that would make you feel like that's what's going on here? Future human visitation?
It could very well be. It's strange, but we think well, if they come back, why haven't we seen like tourists from the future? Well, one thing I think it was Carl Sagan said, well, or it was one of the famous scientists said, well, why haven't we seen them? Why don't we see these people walking around in silver suits with silver glasses on, mirrored glasses on? Well, and then another one scientist said, if they did travel through time, they would walk and speak in whispers and try to avoid all attention because they wouldn't want to change the course of history in their own future where they exist. So there's two elements. Could it be from the future? Well, logically, these things seem to bend physics as we know it. They seem to be a physics we don't know. We don't know how something that seems to have no propellers, no motor, no jet engine, no reasonable way of lifting itself and darting around at incredibly high speeds that would turn us to liquid if we made these sharp turns that these things make. So either they're uninhabited vehicles or they have some kind of ability to overcome inertia. So the more you look into it, the more it looks like they just are way beyond our capability. So time travel certainly could be a possibility. And remember something else. It doesn't matter when you invent a time machine. It will exist throughout time. Whether we invented one today and traveled through time, or someone 3 trillion years from now invents one and decides to travel back to us, if you have a time machine, time is open to you in every direction. So, yeah, it could be that. It could be interdimensional, or it could be an alien species. Proxima b is looking pretty suspicious right now.
What do you think the benefit of? Because I've never got what the benefit of them come if they were from the future. What the benefit would be to come back in time, other than to just out of curiosity, as maybe some sort of commercial sort of thing they do in the future, where it's like, hey, let's take a trip back in time, and like some more of a theatrical sort of thing versus anything else. What do you think the purpose would be to come back?
It could be a number of reasons. It could be tourism. Probably not. I imagine the ability to send someone through time would be a very expensive and massive scientific project, even in the future. It could be scientific, historians wanting to observe and check ancient humanity, which by their standards it would be. It could be that they're trying to alter history to make the outcome in their own time better, and there's some evidence for that as well. Historical evidence. For instance, we have had major crises in our history where strange weather events interfered. For instance, when the Spanish Armada went for England, they were destroyed by a great storm, and it was so important to the English that Queen Elizabeth I, not this one we just had a medallion struck that called it divine wind. And oddly enough, it happened in America too, During the War of 1812, the British landed and marched on Washington, started burning, including the White House, and but they were stopped by quote unquote a hurricane and tornado that went down the main boulevard of Washington, D.C. at the time in 1812, 1813, and it completely destroyed their equipment, scattered their men, and they were forced to retreat to the coast and take to the ship, and that stopped their invasion. That was referred to as the divine wind or the wind of providence. And it happened in Japan twice. Twice the Chinese tried to invade Japan under the Mongolian emperor, about 14, 15 years apart. And each time a great wind came up on the Sea of Japan and destroyed their fleet and killed thousands. They had some 40,000 soldiers they were sending over, and he killed tens of thousands of soldiers that never made it. Now, to be outdone, the emperor decided, I can't remember the exact amount of years, but 12 to 14, 15 years later, he tried it again. Another great wind came and destroyed his fleet. After that, Japan was never invaded by China. This wind was so important to the Japanese that it became their divine wind, and their word for divine wind was kamikaze.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so we could experience something like that in modern time potentially. Try, especially with what we're dealing with now. Maybe we get some global thing that happens that kind of stops it in its tracks. Okay, I'm getting that and I'm feeling that. Now, as far as the let me ask you this last thing here before we go to the last break and get into questions. What do you think about the hybridization whole idea that they are impregnating women and that whole thing? Do you think that's a thing, or what do you think they examine us for when they take us aboard ships?
Well, I think it's genetics. I think it has something to do with it, and we could very well be a hybrid species. You know, if you believe in Sitchin's idea of the Anunnaki and read his books on it, he talks about them creating us from hybridizing us from existing species on Earth to create people who could mine for them. The Anunnaki apparently wanted gold very badly, and they decided that Earth's environment and atmosphere just weren't particularly good for them. So they decided to make a race that could do the hard labor for them. Of course, eventually that race rebelled against them. The Indian Vedic texts of India refer to overlords who were from somewhere else, and that we had a rebellion against them. Very similar story, and that these people had vimanas, which were flying machines, and that a great war broke out, not only on Earth, but in the sky, and well over 100 different races were involved, and that I think it was, uh, I can't remember the god, but it was either Krishna or Kali, actually flew to the moon, and there was a battle on the moon. Now, how did the Indians know that the moon was anything other than a light in the sky? That it was actually something solid that you could fly to. And by the way, they even allowed some humans to fly the Vimana, the most loyal ones. And in the Vedic text, it actually describes how these Vimana worked and how they engineered them. Now we call that myth and legends. It's not legends and myths to the Indian people. To them, it's history. So it's just we have a rather arrogant view of the world. If it doesn't fit our prescribed notions in the West, then it must be myth and legend. So there you go with that. But yeah, it's amazing the amount of information we have. What I'd love to do is be able to string it together and come up with an answer. Are you looking for answers, or it was just more like entertainment for you? I mean, the whole idea of it.
Oh, I am here. I am here totally for answers, and that's why we have conversations that move the needle. I believe that every conversation we have should move the needle a little more forward, and I think we've done that here tonight. And yeah, that's the only thing I don't get into just having conversations for the sake of telling stories, or I'm actually here to have engaging conversations that actually add to the conversation. So yeah, that's what I'm all about. That's my passion. That's what drives me to get up and do this thing every day, and why I'm so excited to get to it, and why I reach out to individuals like yourself, because I know that you are on that same mindset and you're looking for answers too. And the way that you get closer to answers is get two people together that are looking for answers, to have the conversation, and that's how we progress. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, and it works too, because again, the whole idea of a hollow moon was completely anathema to me until I was on Coast to Coast Radio, and that one viewer called in and said, "What do you think about that?" And it got me thinking and heading in that direction. Do I believe the moon is hollow? I don't know. I wish I had the answers. I really do. But it seems odd that there are two moons in the solar system, Phobos and our moon, and they both seem to be circling planets that either have life or might have had life in the past. That's an odd coincidence. Why not Jupiter? Why not Venus? Why not Pluto? But it seems to be Mars and Earth.
And the nice thing is that with so many books that you've written and authored, there's so many other places that we're going to be able to go with conversation. So I'm going to love to book you again, and so we can do this again. But right now, we're going to get ready to go to our break at the top of the hour and come back with questions for our guest here tonight, Rob Schelsky. We'll see you right after the break.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, guys. See you right after the break. We'll be right back. right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. We are in After Hour number 3, going overtime with our guest here, Rob Schelsky, who's agreed to go ahead and answer some of your questions here. We have a long list. We'll be going right from the radio break here in about 10 seconds. Let me bring Rob back up here. And 5 seconds. And here we go. All right, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3. With me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're back with our guest, MUFON investigator, UFO experiencer, researcher, and author, science fiction author, Rob Schelsky. We're going to be getting into questions here. If you missed any of the conversation, awesome conversation for the first 2 hours, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And we have so many options. It's insane. As we get back to the show and jump into the first question here, we had earlier tonight, Paul Scott posed a question asking Rob, and we're both Rob, so I'm assuming he's talking to you. Rob, do you know what part of the government is covering up the secret? I would assume. Who knows and who does not, in your opinion?
The evidence seems to point to the fact that the president is not part of the loop. And if they are, they're keeping it very silent. Jimmy Carter said that when he became president, he would, because he had seen a UFO over Georgia, that he would look into it and divulge any information to the public. It never happened. Ronald Reagan, same thing. Apparently out on his ranch in California, he and his wife Nancy saw something, and he mentioned that they saw it, but it stopped there. So either they're being told and they're not telling us, or they're not in the loop. And if you believe in the Majestic 12 theory, then they're not in the loop. It's only on a need-to-know basis, and they just don't need to know. I think Senator Inouye from Hawaii, before he died, said there is a secret government. It has its own military, its own Air Force, its own Navy, and it is outside the control and the purview of the general government. And I think that's the case. We are so national security and classification conscious in this country that I'm pretty sure that it's quite easy for the left hand not to know what the right hand is doing. So is the president privy to this information? Possibly. Is it likely? That's about a 50-50 question. I would have to say no, probably not. Not unless he makes a real stink about it, and then they let him in on a little of it, and then he has to keep his mouth shut. So I think that's where it stands. I think the government, I think it's the military-industrial complex that is behind a lot of it, and I think they are quite capable of keeping their secrets at whatever cost to the general public.
Do you think Kennedy was about to reveal it with what we know at this point?
No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was in the loop. I think Truman was in the loop. I think Eisenhower might have been, but I don't think Kennedy was. I don't think he was so caught up with the developments in Vietnam and the Bay of Pigs disaster with the invasion of Cuba that he had a lot on his mind. And I think most presidents, their mandate is to govern the country, to protect the people of the United States. And so they're probably just not on the need-to-know list. That's what I think.
That makes sense. Terrence Wills is asking, how many UFO sightings do you think go unreported?
The vast majority. You raise an interesting point. Just before I quit, I saw a UFO, MUFON, before I quit MUFON, I saw a UFO over the city of Greensboro myself. I haven't seen many UFOs in my life. I've seen them twice. Once over in San Diego when I lived there, and 50,000 other people saw it in the San Diego Stadium when the Chargers were playing, when they were in San Diego at the time. And it was the headline of the newspaper the next day said, "Mystery object sighted over San Diego." And I also saw one over the city of Greensboro. Again, I can't tell you what it was, but I can tell you definitely what it wasn't. And so the situation is kind of, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what to tell you, to be honest with you. I'm at a loss. I'm at the point in all this where I have researched and researched and researched, and it's getting frustrating not getting the answers. I imagine you've been in this for quite a while too, haven't you?
I've been in this consistently strong for, I'd say, the last 5 years. Just day in,
you're a newbie. You're a newbie. I've been in it for about 40 years now.
Wow.
And I've done acres and acres of research. And when I get a lot of research done and I learn something, then I like to share it with the general public by writing a book on it. And so that's kind of what I do. I research it and to the point where I write about it. But you always hit this block. Every time you turn, whichever way you turn, you learn so much, but you can't learn more. It's like this invisible wall that just
Yes.
keeps you from learning more. The government doesn't respond, or it responds slowly and responds lots of times with lies. How many versions of the Roswell incident has the government released over the
Oh my
years, for
God.
instance? It
Right.
just goes on decade of a decade. First, it's a flying disc. Then it's a weather balloon. Then it's a weather balloon with dummies. I mean,
Yeah.
they keep changing their story, but it's the same thing. It was not a weather balloon. We all know it was a weather balloon, but how do you fight it? The government has all the control. It controls the dissemination of information. So what can you do? And if they choose to lie about it or cover it up, there's not a lot we can do about it. But yeah, I think that the vast majority, from what I've seen as an investigator, of UFO sightings go unreported. And to finish my story, I didn't report my sighting either. And my state director said, "Rob, why didn't you report it?" I said, "Well, what good would it do? What good would it do?"
To
You
the
know.
and you were an investigator at the time?
Yes,
Wow. Okay. Okay. I know that was. He was like, "You're an investigator. You should be taking your own report or something at this point." Like,
absolutely. But you can't be your own judge. I mean, when I investigate these
yeah,
things, I have to decide if it's environmental things they saw, if it's fog, or if it's an airplane or something seen how partly in the cloud. And if I try to judge for myself, then I'm not an objective. And I do believe that you have to be objective in this. We don't need, oh, it'd be nice if it worked. The Space Brother thing, and all these series about this and all.
mhm,
What we need are facts that we can use to find the
yeah,
answers. That's how I look at it. I believe in UFOs? Yes, but I'd love to kick the tires of one, so to speak, just to make sure it's real. That's how.
exactly. I like that. I like that. Amy is asking, uh, if a human person came to our home and took us, they would go to jail. So why does an alien seem to think it's okay? It is a crime against humanity, and then they drop us in fields like we don't matter.
Amy's absolutely right. These people seem to have no, or these aliens seem to have no sense of human rights or the dignity of human beings whatsoever. I mean, just because they make you forget what they did to you on board their ships doesn't mean that you didn't go through it. And when they relive it under hypnosis, they re-experience the pain and the horror and the fear. And but I mean, just because they blank your memory doesn't mean that they didn't do it. Uh, just because you're put under anesthetic at a hospital before an operation doesn't mean you didn't have the operation. And when you
Exactly.
wake up, you might be in a lot of pain from that operation, if you see what I mean. So yeah, Amy's absolutely right.
And
Immoral or immoral.
my theory is that when I don't think we're supposed to wake up during those abductions, and using the anesthesia example, I had a whole surgery where I got cut open with the scalpel and they stitched me back up, and I don't remember any of it. Zero. Like if I didn't have the physical proof after, I would have never known that it happened. And I think that's what alien abductions is supposed to be. We're not supposed to ever know that it happened. Some of us wake up during the procedure, and I think that's where we get this whole these reports of abductions.
And some of them are quite horrible, you know. There was a case in Brazil near Sao Paulo where a man was found, a young kid was fishing and he looked across the lake. It was actually a reservoir for the city of Sao Paulo. And he looked, and there was a man there lying. And so he went over to check him out, and he was dead, lying in the grass. The grass was undisturbed, not trampled. It was as if someone had dropped him there. The police came. It went. This was in the late '80s, and it went to the local morgue. And the doctor at the time didn't say anything because he was told not to. But several years later, in the early '90s, he came out with it. Internal organs had been sucked out of this person. They had been mutilated. Their anus had been cored out and removed. Their lips, uh, their heart, their lungs, they were drawn out through tiny holes apparently in their armpits and in their groin. All these organs. Same thing as a cattle mutilation. So it doesn't. Some of them don't come back alive.
That case right there, the human mutilation. If you could later send me the link or just the name, so I want to research that actually, because I think
Sure, be glad to.
there definitely is there has to be cases of that out there. So And then let me see. We have this question here from Ian McFadden saying, "Hi, Robs. Are we being farmed and harvested in this prison zoo?"
That's what I'm afraid of. What happens to the 60,000 Americans who disappear every year? Maybe not all of them are abducted by aliens, but a lot of them may be. Even the missing books about what's happening in our national parks kind of support that idea. And remember, take that 60,000 and multiply it times every country on Earth. Not the same number of 60,000; it's different for different countries. But what would be the total missing population of the United States of the world in 1 year? And a lot of countries aren't even reporting it, like in Africa and South America. So yeah, I think we could be being farmed and or harvested, and I'm not sure if it's a zoo or a prison, uh, or if we're just some kind of massive experiment. But I do think that it's whatever it is. If they're not telling us, and if they're trying to make us not remember it, then they have some kind of ulterior motive. And that ulterior motive doesn't look good to me when there's that kind of secrecy involved. Why not just come to us directly and say, "Hi, we're your neighbors from Proxima B or Alpha Centauri A, and we'd like to know more about you. Could we have some tissue samples, DNA samples?" But nope, nope. They're stealing people, treating them miserably, killing some of them, maiming others, then dropping them back on the earth wherever they feel like it. And we're supposed to say, "Oh, okay, they're not really bad because we don't remember what happened to us." My brother had the scoop marks. He had that foreign particle in his body. He had missing time, but he never did take the hypnosis, and he died not knowing. And we all have to die someday, but I'd like to know what's going on before I pass,
Yes, and I
Or
think
maybe not. maybe better if I didn't know.
well, that part too, yeah, because I thought, I often think about if they were here to eat us, and chances are they probably aren't. But if the small chance that they are, like when they're going to just consume you in front of your loved ones, and I just think about a moment like that, and I just, for the record, want to let extraterrestrials know I do not taste good at all. Don't put me on the list. I'm not good in any, shape or form or fashion, actually. So
I understand we taste like pork. Maybe they don't like pork. No, I don't. I don't think it's to serve man. But if they're stealing all of our people every year around the world, where are they taking them? What are they using them for? Slave labor?
Very depressing. And see, that's why when I think about when Lou Elizondo says somber, uses words like somber, and then Ross Coulthard says something like ominous, or he used some word that kind of meant the same thing. And I'm just like, why are they saying this? Like, what do they know that we don't know? Like, what theories have they come up with? And this would be something I would consider somber. And yes, so let me see here. Terrence Wills is asking, question for both: where is this whole reveal of aliens going? It seems inevitable and impossible at the same time.
Well, it could be going to full disclosure. I don't think we're going to get hard disclosure. I think the government's going to keep, if they're going to disclose at all, and it looks like they are a little bit, but I think they're only disclosing when they're forced to. When so many videos from phones and things kind of force them to have to respond. So yeah, I think we might get it eventually, but I think the government's fighting tooth and nail not to have to do it. I don't think they want to do it. And is it inevitable? I think as our technology advances, just as everyone has a phone now and can take pictures of these things and videos, it's going to become, I think Terrence is absolutely right. I think it's going to become more and more difficult for the government not to do it. And it's going to be, at some point, possibly impossible. But if the government's hiding it, why are they hiding it? Is it for fear of world panic? The majority of people in the United States now believe UFOs are real. So what are you going to panic them by telling them UFOs are real? So apparently it's not the 1950s anymore. We don't run screaming into the night because there's some alien monster on our doorstep, or we're told there might be. We've kind of gotten used to the idea, I think. Maybe that's what the government's trying to do. There was a theory in the 80s that the government was trying to do it with soft disclosure and paving the way by having nice movies about E.T., great movie. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, great movie. Everyone loved the aliens. Everyone wanted to meet them, me included. And then all of a sudden, it started to change and became movies like The Alien and all these horrible movies. And so it makes you think that maybe the government was trying to do it, and then something came up, something happened that made them decide to backtrack and maybe start to put the fear back into people about this whole idea. And if the government thinks we should be afraid, maybe we should be.
Yeah, they definitely seen another side of it, I believe. But paranormal short sessions asking question for Rob: if you had to be abducted by extraterrestrial beings, which one would you pick and why?
The Nordic ones, they look the most like us. I'd much rather be abducted by a tall, blonde-haired human being than I would some ugly little devil with tentacles, reptilian, or even the Greys. So yeah, I'd go
That's
for the
true.
Nordic.
And I would say the same thing. Now, wouldn't it be funny if the Nordics were the ones that eat humans? That would be just so ironic, right? That we would be feel safer with the Nordics because we identify with them on a human level, but then they're also the ones that consume human beings. That would just be a conundrum right there. Paul Scott is asking.
I'm interrupting for just a second, but was
Yeah.
that last person who posted Keith Evans? Was that? Would he?
Oh,
It was just before Paul Scott. He was up on the screen here. It's Keith Evans. Keith
yeah.
Evans is a very good author, by the way, and he's a friend of mine. And we work on paranormal stuff quite often together, back and forth. And he writes books like about vampires alive or dead. He had a book about the Hayes House ghost. He's a very good ghost investigator. Doesn't like to be called a ghost hunter, but you might want to consider having him on your show because he's a cool guy.
I would love to. If you could forward me his name, and I'll definitely reach out for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it. Let's do it, Keith. Let's see here. Paul Scott is asking, Rob, have you ever done interviews where abductees have seen United States Air Force military on the craft helping the aliens with their experiments on civilians?
I have had interviews with abductees. They have never once mentioned anything about the military being on the craft and helping the aliens in any way or even being involved in any way. It seems to me that these aliens are doing this despite our military, maybe with the military's silent agreement that they can get away with it for some reason, maybe in exchange for technology. But I think it's maybe because they can't do anything about it. I don't think we have the technology to fight these things. And it's just been tacitly decided that since we can't do anything about it, leave it alone. But no, I don't think they're in collusion with the aliens. I hope not. Oh, heavens, I hope not.
And we have, let's see, we have Jules asking, do you think that the governments of Earth will ever tell us what they know?
I think they will when they're absolutely forced to and not before.
Facts. That is a fact. Let's see, we have Jules again asking, when you were a MUFON investigator, what was your most interesting case?
Well, I would have to say it's my most bizarre one. A female preacher who lived in Winston-Salem called me up, or actually called up the state director, and I was sent to investigate. And she said that she had choked an alien, strangled him in her bedroom because it attacked her and she was strangling it. Absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support the idea. And she was a religious person and she was equating it with being a demon or an agent of the demons. But she said it was a true alien like a gray. And that's one of those investigations that I had to discount. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support it other than her word. And frankly, that's not enough to go on. We'd have to have some kind of physical evidence or visual evidence of something, you know. But yeah, I would have to say that was my strangest one.
All right. And then Terrence Wills, will people freak out more if aliens look more like aliens or almost exactly like humans?
The more different they look from us, the more we're going to hate them and fear them. It's that simple. It's the way the human race has always been. I don't see it changing anytime soon. If they come across looking like octopuses with 15 eyes and an exterior heart beating, we're not going to take to them nearly as well as if they were like the Nordics. So, yeah.
Carrie Doyle is asking, is helium-3 the energy source they say it is? And do you think that it's what the aliens are after?
I think helium-3 we know it's a great energy source for nuclear fusion. It's like a pure form of fuel. It's like getting refined oil for your car. It's that kind of a thing. It's very hard to come by here on Earth. We can make it. It takes a lot of effort, but we can do it. And there is some naturally here, but nothing like compared on the moon. The moon has tons and tons of it. We could probably power the entire Earth for several hundred years just with, on the surface of the moon alone.
All right. And then off of that, crazy, super crazy movie geek, do you think any alien species would intervene if humans started launching nuclear missiles?
They might. We have some evidence of that. They were near a base. We launched a missile. There was a UFO sighted by the military itself. A beam came out, and also that is on the internet. I don't know if it still is, but it was a number of years ago. And it struck the rocket and the missile, and it blew it up, although it wasn't an armed missile. Also, we've had where they have shut down or even started up the launch codes for missiles at some of our bases. So they have the capability. And if they're running an experiment, they might not want the experiment to terminate itself, if you know what I mean. So they might stop us. Or they might actually have their best wishes for us and not want to see us dead, or wiped out. Or maybe they care about the Earth and not us so much. Maybe the natural environment of Earth is what they're trying to save, and not these creatures that seem to be destroying it. So
destroying it, exactly. Paul Scott is asking, Rob G, do you think we have already made contact and the normal civilians are out of the loop?
I think most of the so-called normal civilians are out of the loop, and I think we have already made contact. I think the government's quite aware of what's going on, at least to some extent, certainly more than we are. And I think they have tacit agreement with whoever these things or whatever these things are, if only because they can't do anything to stop it. They always say these Tic Tac type UFOs are no threat to our aviation. Really? They're buzzing our jets. They're buzzing our bases. They're invading airspace, even over Washington D.C. itself, and that's not a threat to our aviation. So yeah, and they would have spent millions of dollars on these programs to try to discern what UAPs are or UFOs if they didn't have some concern. They're just trying to mollify the general population, I think.
And to add to that, I always say that we have reports of private pilots being interfered with their electronics by anomalous craft. We have military pilots who have also reported the same thing. So chances are commercial pilots have also dealt with the exact same thing, but obviously they wouldn't report that because it's, 300 people aboard a plane. And you have to wonder if some of those catastrophes may have been behind something shutting off the electronics. Not saying that it has been, but you just have to at least be open to that. Roger Murray's asking Rob Schelsky question: is the face on Mars, is it real or a trick with light and shadow?
I think it's a trick of light and shadow. I was hoping it wasn't. I was hoping to find an advanced but maybe dead civilization on Mars, but recent photographs from NASA show it from different angles, and it just looks like a case of pareidolia. I don't think it's just a trick of lighting and shadow and the human mind making it up. Although, and I know I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist here, it certainly looked like it in the original photographs, and now the photographs we're getting don't look anything like it. So is the government manipulating the photographs? They could
changed it, yeah.
Yeah.
Jose Sanchez, last question here. Has there ever been a statistical report on what metals have been found in the structure of crashed off-world saucers?
We have had a couple pieces of metal that indicate that they couldn't have come from the Earth. Their chemical composition and small amounts of other alloys in them, like iridium, show that they are not natural from Earth itself. We found this in a couple of meteorites, but we also found it supposedly in some pieces of material taken from the Roswell site.
And fun fact, a lot of the UFO crash sightings, the people have found 99% pure aluminum, whatever that means. But with that being said, Rob, we have 30 seconds for you to tell everybody where they can find you.
They can find me, I would say Amazon. You can find all my books lined up there. You can go to Permuted Press for some of my books that aren't on Amazon. You can go to Smashwords. A lot of my books are there as well. Or you can go to Simon & Schuster, the ones that publish the Harry Potter books. A couple of my books are there as well. So yeah, just Google my name. You'll find me.
Well, Rob, it has been a pleasure. I knew this was going to be an awesome conversation. I knew that when I reached out. We have to do another show here soon So I'll be reaching out and let's book another date.
Great. Thank you, sir. And I really enjoyed the show. And I'm so sorry it took me so long to get my audio working.
That is okay. We had an awesome time here with Rob Schelsky, author, MUFON investigator, UFO researcher. We'll be having him back, Rob. Have a good rest of your night. Take care.
You too, sir.
All right. And we'll be back. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. Still have about 30 minutes left. We'll get into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. And maybe a UFO weird news story if we can fit it in. We'll be right back after the break. All right, we are clear. We are clear, guys. Awesome show so far. Got to thank our guest again, Rob Schelsky. Knew it was going to be awesome, man. I knew it was going to be great. He's a great conversationalist and very knowledgeable on the subject. And hopefully everyone was able to take something from that and move the needle forward. Links are above in the chat, as Jules has said, and it's also in the description of the video. I know I have all of Rob's links there. And Jose Sanchez, it's rare to find aluminum at 100%. It's usually mixed with other metals, and that's what makes it unusual. Yeah, and that's the thing, for whatever reason, and you would think, right, because with aluminum being so pliable and malleable, why that, like, what component of these spaceships would be made out of 99% pure aluminum? No one has been able to answer that, but I watched a show where they tested metals that have been retrieved from Roswell site, I think the Kingman site as well, and then some other historical sites, and those materials all came out to be 99% aluminum. So there's a link there. There's a connection of some form of fashion. I don't know what component would be made out of that, but they've definitely found it at multiple sites. So there is a link there. There is a link there for sure. And let's see here. What else do we have here? Okay, let me no, the alien craft is not made from aluminum. Yeah, I wouldn't think the craft itself, the shell, would be made out of that, but apparently some part of the craft is made out of that. I don't know why they would choose that soft metal, but it definitely is the case. According to, what people have retrieved in the field. They had it tested and 99%, 99.9%. So crazy. But yeah. And then it doesn't go along with the Roswell where they said they have the metal where they crunched it and it reformed the shape. So I don't know, maybe the pliability of the metal was aluminum, but maybe it's like electrically charged, and because it's so malleable, it can reform its shape without, leaving creases and things like that, right? Because it's so soft, right? So you're able to do whatever with it, but then something allows it to pop back out, So maybe there's something to that. Maybe the shells are made out. I don't know. Definitely something to think about, though. Let's see. Candace saying the aluminum is for my hat, Rob. Yeah, tinfoil hat. That's right. But even aluminum foil isn't, 99% aluminum, right? I think it's something. I don't know what the percentages are in aluminum foil, but this is like pure aluminum. Let's see. We got about a minute left before we come back from break, and we will be doing some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, maybe squeezing in a news story if we have the time. But let me get this all set up, guys. And we will be having an awesome show tomorrow as well. We got Kate Chassé. I want to say it's Kate Chassé. And I anticipate another awesome conversation tomorrow night. So make sure you're here for that. If you're new, this is the weekend show. This is the After Hours radio show. I saw someone asking earlier, like, I thought Dave was hosting the show. Dave does host Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. until midnight. which is the main show. And then I do the weekend show, which is the After Hours radio show. You'll catch these shows Saturdays and Sundays from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Pacific. And I'm even considering going an hour earlier. I may try that out like next week or the week after, just see how that works out, going 1 hour earlier. See, you know, how that does, and maybe that'll be the new thing. I don't know. I'm just considering it because for our East Coast guests or our potential East Coast guests and viewers, would love to have as many of those people, you know, present when we do these shows. So if you haven't already, please make sure you go right under the screen, hit the like button so we can get these likes up over 100. I'm not even sure where we're at, but we're coming back from break right about now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours radio show, back half of hour number 3. We want to thank our guests for staying overtime tonight. Rob Schelsky, MUFON investigator, author, UFO researcher, UFO experiencer. We're going to be talking to Rob more here in the future, so you can best believe that. If you missed any of the conversation tonight, youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And what I wanted to do is go ahead and get into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, because for one, we appreciate Steve Stockton being part of After Hours, and we want to go ahead and jump into that right about now.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. First up, Alexandra Greenwald. On Wednesday, October 29, 2014, 10-year-old Alexandra Greenwald disappeared from her Rio Rancho, New Mexico home. Her disappearance was reported the following morning, and missing person flyers were widely circulated throughout the city. While some speculated that she may have run away, many feared that she had been abducted. The case received national attention as search parties scoured the nearby desert with the help of local and state police, the FBI, and concerned neighbors. Police speculated Alexandra may have run away after a heated argument with her mother, Catherine Allen. After going to bed around 10 p.m., Alexandra allegedly changed out of her pajamas, packed 2 bags, and snuck out the back door of her family's home. She may have been trying to make it to her father's home, 60 miles away in Madrid, New Mexico. To the relief of many, Alexandra returned home unharmed 3 days after going missing. She said she'd run away on her own accord and was not kidnapped. When questioned about how she survived in the desert for 3 days, she credited her survival to eating apples and receiving help from animals, such as lizards and coyotes. However, Alexandra did not elaborate on how else the animals helped her. The family has not fully disclosed details about Alexandra's disappearance and safe return. It remains unclear where she was while missing, why search efforts were unsuccessful, and how she returned home unharmed despite allegedly being exposed to the elements for several days. Next, we have Raymond Roth. In July of 2012, Raymond Roth disappeared while on a Long Island beach. His then 22-year-old son, Jonathan Roth, called 911 to report that his father had, quote, gone missing in the waves, end quote. Despite a search operation by the Coast Guard, police, and volunteers, no trace of Raymond was found, and he was presumed to have perished. However, about a week later, Raymond himself was stopped for speeding in South Carolina and arrested for attempting to defraud his life insurance company of over $400,000 by faking his own death. The plot was discovered when prosecutors said Raymond's wife, Ivana, who had been planning her husband's funeral, stumbled on emails between father and son discussing the plan's details. As a result, he was sentenced to prison for a maximum of 7 years and ordered to pay more than $36,000 in restitution to the Coast Guard and Nassau County Police. Raymond told the judge he was sorry for what he did and wasn't doing good mentally. He added that he had no intention of going back to New York. In 2014, 17 months after reporting his father missing, Jonathan Roth admitted to helping his father fake his death. Jonathan said he was coerced into participating in the scam, which prosecutors said his father crafted to get a substantial life insurance payout. Jonathan pled guilty to conspiracy arising from the scam. Next up, we have Esther Beadle. Esther Beadle left her shared house at 10 p.m. on Friday, January 29th, 2016, and failed to return. Esther was a journalist for the Oxford Mail, and her disappearance was recounted in a 2021 article by Francisco Garcia in The Guardian. According to Garcia, when Esther did not meet her friend in London the next day, her loved ones became concerned. A multitude of tweets were posted within hours, providing a description of her and requesting any information about her last known whereabouts. The next day, while trying to remain hidden in a travel lodge, Esther realized how much attention she was getting online. People talked about her on social media, shared her personal information, and proposed theories as to why she left. Someone even tweeted about which tabloid would pay the most for her story. Esther hoped for seclusion, but her phone was inundated with frantic messages and calls from relatives, strangers, and even her ninth-grade geography teacher. On Sunday, January 31, Esther visited St. Thomas Hospital near Westminster Bridge and requested to see the mental health crisis team. According to Esther, quote, "I knew that I didn't want anybody to know where I was going. I just knew I wanted to be away from existence, I suppose. I booked the hotel on Expedia while I sat in my living room chatting to my housemate, telling me everything was fine, that I was going to be fine," end quote. After Esther's return, she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, a mental health condition often associated with stigma and misunderstanding. Esther now advocates for mandatory return interviews for people who leave intentionally but come back home to help them understand the pressures that led to their disappearance and hopefully prevent similar situations in the future. According to Esther, quote, "What we need is the development of a safe, dedicated space in which returned adults can explore what's happened to us, come to terms with what we've done, and get support in working out how we come safely back into society. Return from missing should always be seen as an opportunity to learn, to prevent, and above all, to help someone reclaim their life as their own," end quote. Next up, we have Patrick McDermott. In 2005, Patrick McDermott, the former boyfriend of the late singer and actress Olivia Newton-John, went missing during a fishing trip off the coast of California and was believed to have drowned. The ship's crew found Patrick's keys, wallet, and passport, and his car was parked nearby. Since the crew failed to do a head count, no one noticed he was missing for another week when he failed to attend a family event. Patrick previously filed for bankruptcy and had been in a legal dispute over child support payments with his ex-wife. He was thought to have been in significant debt when he disappeared. "It's not at all like him to disappear," said neighbor Kathleen Padden. On July 11th, Patrick's family learned some of his items were left behind at the 22nd Street Marina. Frank Liversedge, who managed the marina, believed Patrick made it to shore and intentionally left his belongings behind for unknown reasons. "I know he got to the top of that ramp. I've been here for 45 years as a boat captain and a vessel master. I have never lost a fisherman," said Liversedge. Despite an extensive search, Patrick's body was never found. One investigator proclaimed to have seen and spoken with him in 2009, but the claim was never confirmed. Another investigator alleged to have proof he was alive and was on the verge of revealing it, but never did. At least 20 sightings of Patrick in Mexico and Central America have surfaced, but many have proven to be false. Many speculate he faked his own death because he was in substantial debt and could not keep up with the, quote, "Hollywood lifestyle," end quote. Hosts of a podcast entitled Pseudocide, The Disappearance of Patrick McDermott, alleged Patrick was lost at sea and did die on the fishing trip. The host contacted 10 previously quoted individuals saying they had seen Patrick around Sayulita. Still, none of them could confirm that they had seen him for themselves. Next up, we have Natasha Ryan. Natasha was supposed to attend school in Rockhampton, Queensland on August 31st, 1998. Her mother dropped her off that morning, but her name was missing from the classroom attendance list. Despite a thorough search, she was not found. Her parents told the authorities she had a habit of running away from home, but they felt it was, quote, "different this time," end quote. Even her 21-year-old boyfriend, Scott Black, claimed to know nothing about her location. Over time, 3 other local women had gone missing from Rockhampton. All signs pointed to Natasha being harmed on the way to school that morning. Authorities also had a confession from Leonard Frazier, a man who spent 20 of the preceding 22 years in prison for various crimes. Frazier admitted to Natasha's murder as part of a police plea deal. However, on April 11, 2003, almost 5 years after Natasha's disappearance, the case took a puzzling turn. Frazier was on trial when prosecutor Paul Rutledge announced Frazier was not guilty of the murder of Natasha because she was very much alive. Detectives found her hiding in a cupboard at her boyfriend, Scott Black's house the night before. Black had insisted numerous times that he had not seen or heard from Natasha, but he had been hiding her all along in a home just 4 kilometers away from her mother. Natasha told investigators that when visitors were over, she would hide in cupboards, but otherwise she would wander around the house like normal with the curtains closed. She only left the house when it was dark outside. Natasha was fined $1,000 for causing a false police investigation. Scott Black was convicted of perjury and given a 3-year jail sentence, of which he only served 12 months. He was also forced to pay $16,000 for costs related to the investigation. Natasha and Scott later married in 2008. And now we have the case of Lance Herring. It's not uncommon for individuals to run away from their obligations. In 2006, U.S. Marine Lance Herring disappeared while hiking in El Dorado Canyon, Colorado. Lance had recently returned from Iraq and was expected to attend training at Camp Pendleton for potential redeployment the following month. Unfortunately, Lance never showed up and went into hiding. His friend, Steve Powers, assisted him in faking his disappearance. The search for Lance consumed numerous hours and cost thousands of dollars. Steve Powers initially claimed to have received assistance after Lance suffered a head injury from a fall. However, when law enforcement officials accompanied Powers to the scene, Lance was nowhere to be found. Powers eventually confessed to fabricating the disappearance, but not before an extensive search was conducted for the missing Marine. Lance was ultimately located in Washington State in 2008 and was charged with unauthorized absence. Lance confessed to the authorities that he had orchestrated his own disappearance to evade being sent back to Iraq. Due to desertion, Lance was held in the Camp Pendleton brig for 33 days. In 2009, he agreed to a plea bargain offered by Boulder County that required him to complete 18 months of probation and continue receiving medical care for his head injuries in Iraq. And finally, we have John Darwin, the Canoe Man. Financial difficulties can be highly stressful for individuals and may cause some to contemplate disappearing to escape their problems. In March of 2002, John Darwin, a teacher and prison officer in England, went kayaking at Seaton Carew, but failed to attend work later that day. He was reported missing, but John was not found despite an extensive search of the 62 square miles of coastline. A double-ended paddle was discovered in the sea the following day, and his kayak wreckage was eventually located, leading authorities to presume he had perished. On December 1st, 2007, 5.5 years after being believed to have drowned in a canoeing accident, John surprised London's West End Central Police Station by walking in and announcing that he thought he was a missing person. However, his deceit was uncovered when pictures of him posing for a photo in Panama were discovered online. Before John's reappearance, a police investigation had already been initiated after a colleague of his wife, Anne, raised suspicions about her claim on her husband's life insurance policy and subsequent move to Panama. Why did John fake his death? The couple were allegedly in a financial bind. John considered all his options and settled on faking his death to cash in on his life insurance policy. In an interview with the BBC in 2016, Anne said she knew John, quote, couldn't live with the shame of bankruptcy, end quote, but could not talk him out of his final decision. As darkness fell on March 22nd, John pushed his red kayak back toward the shipping lanes and fled to the Cumbrian coast. Meanwhile, Anne helped set his plan in motion. John found inspiration in the book, The Day of the Jackal, and searched through the library's death records to find a new identity for himself. He discovered John Jones, born in Sunderland the same year as he was. Jones had died at just 5 weeks old. A librarian John had befriended supported his passport application and provided a copy of John Jones' birth certificate from Sunderland's records. Investigators discovered that John had been using a fraudulent passport belonging to the deceased child, which allowed him to travel without being questioned. The story of the canoe man extends well beyond the crime and the individuals held accountable for it. Some people are still struggling to recover from the aftermath of John's behavior years later. In closing, let's look at the consequences of attempting to disappear. Trying to disappear can have serious repercussions, not just for the individual attempting it, but also for their loved one. Methods such as faking one's death or changing one's identity are illegal and could result in criminal charges. Those who go missing may struggle to maintain relationships and become distant from their family and friends. People who try to disappear may face severe physical and mental consequences. This includes being exposed to the elements if they are living off the grid, suffering from malnutrition or health problems if they cannot get medical care, and being at a higher risk of violence or exploitation if they are homeless or in a vulnerable situation. Trying to disappear can also be very stressful and worsen existing mental health problems or even cause new ones to develop. Cases of missing persons can be complex, since some individuals initially thought to be in danger may have intentionally disappeared. While urgent help is usually required in most missing person cases, a few may have chosen to disappear independently for different reasons. This can lead to confusion and concern, resulting in the unnecessary use of valuable resources for search and rescue operations.
All right. Want to thank Steve Stockton once again. Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. We do appreciate Steve Stockton being part of the show here, the After Hours Radio Show. And at least this story were people that ended up coming back, right? That faked their disappearance. But, you know, a lot of the times these stories don't go that way. As we talked with our guest earlier tonight, Rob Schelsky, you know, there's abductions where 60, I think he said 60,000 people who disappear to never come back per year in the United States. So that's why we shout out Steve Stockton, and it's definitely a good thing that he does this Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries and speaks for those who cannot speak for themselves. So once again, appreciate you, Steve Stockton, as we go ahead and get ready to jump into some UFO and weird news. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right. UFO and weird news of the week. And we were talking earlier about 3i Atlas. And there's a story out in the news where this has now intersected with Project Bluebeam of all things. Project Bluebeam explained as conspiracy resurfaces in wake of potentially hostile alien threat. And that's assuming that 3i Atlas has anything to do with alien technology. But the story's from Brenna Cooper, and here we go. The news that a potentially hostile alien object could be heading towards Earth has reignited an online conspiracy theory known as Project Bluebeam. But what exactly is it? In case you've missed it, a research paper was recently published which suggested that Comet 3i Atlas could potentially be an intelligence gathering device sent by an advanced alien civilization to monitor us. The research conducted by Avi Loeb, Adam Hibbard, and Adam Crowell argued that the comet's trajectory has a 0.2% of being naturally occurring, which is certainly something to give pause. Although Loeb ultimately concluded that 3i Atlas is most likely a completely natural interstellar object, the report has caused numerous conspiracy theories to resurface, and not all of them actually involve little green men invading from the cosmos. According to some members of the Tinfoil Hat Brigade, that's what they call us, okay, The entire story about potentially hostile alien spyware is completely fabricated and designed to cause panic. But why, you ask? Well, that's where Project Bluebeam comes into play. What is Project Bluebeam? Project Bluebeam is a theory created by the late Canadian journalist Sergei Monast in the 1990s. Monast argued that global leaders would work together to, quote, fabricate supernatural events in order to create a global totalitarian government. He also believed such events would bring about the collapse of existing world religions. Despite the idea being 3 decades old, Manas passed away in 1996. Project Bluebeam floats to the top of the internet chatter every now and again, usually in the aftermath of alleged viral supernatural sightings. According to Newsweek, the topic popped back up in December 2024 after multiple drones were sighted over the state of Pennsylvania, with prominent figures such as Roseanne Barr posting about the topic. Unsurprisingly, the words, quote, potentially hostile and, quote, alien worked like tinder on the conspiracy theory bonfire, with believers in Manas theory claiming this was the exact sign they'd been warning about for years. In one post created by a TikTok user, he urged his followers to ignore any advice given by governments in emergency situations, saying, quote, this is the beginning, and I urge you, look up Bluebeam, end quote. Meanwhile, one person on X even claimed the story was being used as a, quote, distraction tactic by President Donald Trump. Quote, Donald Trump would rather push Project Bluebeam than have the Epstein files released. Aliens in November, my ass, they alleged. However, not everyone is convinced by the argument, with many Redditors dismissing the topic when it was recently brought up on a paranormal subreddit. It's also worth noting that NASA, who are supposed to be involved in the alleged Project Bluebeam fear-mongering, has been quick to quash any suggestion that any alien invasion is imminent, saying the comment is natural and poses no threat to planet Earth. And as we talked about with our guests here tonight, we hope that that's the case. We really do, because last thing we need is to, have to worry about fighting off an alien force when we literally can't sit here on this planet and get along with each other, right? We're already fighting this battle amongst each other. We definitely don't need an alien battle to go on top of that. So, yeah, with that being said, awesome story, awesome perspective, thinking about Bluebeam and the false flag event that we know Greer has talked about for so long. And then this giving them something to say, look, it's coming. I told you it's coming. With that being said, we'd like to thank our guests for coming in here tonight, Mr. Rob Schelsky, MUFON investigator, UFO researcher, and also author of, I want to say, 80 plus books. And we're going to be talking to him again soon because there's so many different topics that he covers, from time travel to UFOs, actually cryptids, all of the sorts. So we're going to make sure that we get him back here very soon. And then outside of that, we're going to get ready to get up out of here. So I want to thank also everybody else out there as we get ready to wrap things up. We want to thank this man right here. His name is Ron Mama Football. He rocks us in and out of each and every show as he tells us to never say never again, because guess what? Yes, the phenomena is real. It's real, which means anything and everything is possible beneath that. If you love what we talked about here tonight, you love the show, make sure you show your support. Throw the like up. Also, throw your horns up as well. Also, we want to thank our viewers online and listeners on terrestrial radio and digital platforms all around the world. Thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. What's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, the show's copyright Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. It's been a pleasure serving you once again as your host. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And so all you space travelers out there, it's not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, you can best believe this. We go off air for the night. We'll be back doing the exact same thing, moving the needle once again. Hope to see you there. Much love to everybody. Take care. All right, guys, we are clear, crystal clear. We're going to have a fantastic show tomorrow as well. Like I said, we have Kate Chassé. We're going to be getting into some more alien UFO talk. This is where we move the needle, guys, right here in the After Hours Radio Show. So if you're new, I hope to see you back. The weekend show is rocks just as much as the weekday show. 7 days a week. It's something going down right here at Spaced Out Radio, and we hope to see you back here. I'm about to get up out of here, guys. I want you to have a great rest of your night. And as we end the show, like always, we want retribution. And it's just the fitting song, right? It's the fitting song to bring the show in and out. And that's how we're going to get up out of here. So you guys have a great rest of your night. I will see you on the next show. Take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with a cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Beat in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. Pain for their disease. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. Time to make them bleed. Cause we just want retribution. Let's go light up the darkness. Make true of an empty promise. Flip cards into weak and harmless. Take to the streets and turn them to a mosh pit. Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.